up the volume and listen. We bring a mix of news, entertainment, and sports to your lives.
Nationwide 90 FM's live and continuous coverage of the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary.
News and discussions week mornings.
Coming up in the news at 6 for this morning.
Entertainment in the afternoons, then news again in the evenings.
Nationwide news at this hour, fired.
Also tune into the entertainment and sports shows in the nights and on the weekends.
It is Boy Things After Dark right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
Everything is news, from current affairs and entertainment to sports, business, and other categories.
Nationwide 90 FM. This is Beanie Man. Give it to them. Zaga, Zen.
From every whisper to every commotion.
That's rubbish. The KSAMC cannot investigate itself.
Every news story unfolds here first at Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Every sound is a story, and every story we share is news.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
News at 5 teasers are brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide news at this hour, the government is prepared to dig up bodies hastily buried in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa.
We will recover all bodies, even if we have to exhume. We have to account for every Jamaican who lost their life, because we have to account to their families as well.
Jamaicans for Justice warns women and children are at risk of sexual violence in the parishes worst affected by the hurricane.
Civil society groups press for climate justice as the country reels from the destruction of Hurricane Melissa.
Agriculture Minister says Melissa has brought the sector to its knees.
Private sector groups join forces to provide aid to Western Jamaica.
In news from the rest of the world, TNT police chief backs U.S. strikes against alleged drug smugglers.
Trump says the ongoing government shutdown is to be blamed for the recent Republican losses.
In headline sports, West Indies beats New Zealand in T20 opener and goes for 2-0 lead in 8 hours from now.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, an emergency field hospital has been set up in St. Elizabeth to provide medical care in the aftermath of Melissa. What will that mean for the health response in one of the hardest hit areas? The Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, will join us.
In public opinion at 6:26, we ask, what's your reaction to the $1 trillion bill left by Hurricane Melissa? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, the MP for West St. Thomas, James Robertson, says the passage of Hurricane Melissa has provided an opportunity to address the fundamental policy issues impacting government efficiency. He'll join us.
At 7, Democrat Zoran Mamdani won the mayoral race in New York in the first major election since Donald Trump regained the presidency. You'll hear more.
We'll have all these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, RevoNews.ai, and on the Revo News app. It's available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Wednesday afternoon, it's Wednesday, November 5, 2025.
News at 5 teasers were brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the government is prepared to exhume bodies which were hastily buried in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. He says this is necessary to ensure proper accountability and identification.
There are debts that have not yet been, we know of them, but we can't account as to whether or not they were directly related or indirectly related. And so they are going through that process, as well as there are debts which we know of, but we haven't yet recovered the bodies. Yes, and people have resorted to burying. However, just to be clear, we will recover all bodies, even if we have to exhume. And we will go through a process of proper identification and, where possible, determination of death. The science is there to do it, and we will do it. We have to account for every Jamaican who lost their life, because we have to account to their families as well, and we have to get a full understanding of the impact of the disaster.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. The official death toll from Hurricane Melissa stands at 32, but anecdotal accounts suggest the tally is expected to increase. MP for Eastern Westmoreland, Dr. Dayton Campbell, told the House of Representatives that several bodies in his constituency have already been buried and may not be a part of the official count. Dr. Holness says Jamaicans should prepare for an increase in the death toll.
We have some forensic teams here, and they are already starting to do the forensic checks on the bodies that they have recovered. I want to say to Jamaicans that we should prepare our minds that the number of deaths may be more than what we are already hearing, because we can't tell you now that we'll recover everybody right away. It does take some time, especially in communities that are marooned. And it is really unfortunate, but it is just the reality of the situation when you are hit by a Category 5 hurricane.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. He was responding to questions in the House of Representatives yesterday.
Meanwhile, Dr. Holness says measures are being taken to address the potential public health fallout in the parishes worst affected by Hurricane Melissa.
We are aggressively addressing post-disaster public health risk. Flooding, stagnant water, and sanitation disruption create favorable conditions for mosquito breeding and the spread of waterborne and vector-borne diseases. Public health teams are deploying enhanced vector control operations, including larvicide distribution to 120 households. A fogging campaign is being mounted now with the support of private contractors and expanded field staff.
The Prime Minister says the country's water systems are being closely monitored.
Water quality monitoring is being intensified at all treatment plants, with chlorination and turbidity testing to protect the population from gastroenteritis and hepatitis A and other water-related illnesses. Food safety teams are inspecting facilities and supervising safe disposal of spoiled food and livestock carcasses. Sanitation and other management operations are being strengthened to protect communities and reduce disease transmission.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister says approximately $170 million has been raised for the Hurricane Melissa relief effort through the official online donation website.
On our supportjamaica.gov.jm, which was built in record time by the Amber Group, which is the central hub for donations to Jamaica from the diaspora and the world. We have so far raised $170 million Jamaican dollars in contributions. And I encourage Jamaicans and our friends all over the world to give. Supportjamaica.gov.jm. All contributions go centrally to ODPEM, which is the government's official disaster management agency.
The Prime Minister also disclosed that nearly 120 relief flights have landed in the country since the disaster.
Relief flights began on October 29, and commercial passenger services resumed on October 30th. From October 29th to November 2, airports processed 350 flights, including 162 commercial flights and 117 relief and military missions. Domestic air drones, including Negril and Tinson Pen, are also operational.
That's Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness.
Human rights lobby group Jamaicans for Justice JFJ is calling for specific attention to be paid to the risk of sexual and domestic violence in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Mikkel Jackson is the executive director of JFJ. She says women and children in the hardest hit parishes are particularly vulnerable.
I want us to also spare a thought to women and children who have been displaced who are at risk of sexual predators. I've spoken to 2 NGO partners, one of whom indicated so far of domestic violence happening even in a space of devastation. So you have sexual violence that will happen. And as we reach out to the communities, one of the things we are cognizant of that some families can't afford to even go where the aid is because they have to consider that they can't leave their children because you do have sexual predators around.
Ms. Jackson says while she commends the government for the initial mobilization and communication, the administration must ensure that laws against consumer and labor exploitation are properly enforced. She says there are other human rights issues that require urgent attention in the aftermath of the disaster.
We do have certain vulnerable groups, persons living with HIV, for example, who have been marooned in communities, displaced without their medication, so they are unable to adhere to their treatment regimen if it is that their medication is out. So it's a devastating effect that we're seeing.
Michael Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ.
A coalition of civil society groups are calling for urgent climate justice following the passage of Hurricane Melissa. In a release on Tuesday, 43 organizations warned that Melissa's devastating impact is not merely a natural disaster but a stark consequence of global warming, fossil fuel dependence, and decades of political inaction. They are demanding immediate government and international action to protect vulnerable communities. Shalois Michael has that story.
The coalition of 43 organizations includes the Jamaica Environment Trust, JET, Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, National Integrity Action, and the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement. According to the group, the Category 5 weather event was a profound manifestation of climate injustice. It says the unprecedented strength and rapid intensification of Hurricane Melissa were as a result of global warming, fossil fuel dependence, corporate greed, and political negligence. Speaking on the JFJ-produced show Let's Talk Justice on Monday, CEO of JET, Dr. Teresa Rodriguez Moody, says weather events like these are likely to continue unless the key environmental issues are addressed.
This kind of intense storms are likely to become more of the norm if we don't do anything about the warming of the climate. So a lot of vulnerability studies have been done. There have been studies done for Sad Lamar, Black River, Montego Bay. They have areas that they know would be impacted by certain types of storms, by storm surge, by flooding. And we knew that certain critical infrastructure should not have been located in the places that they were in. Whether or not anything was done about that level of exposure is unclear, but we're seeing that possibly not much had been done.
She says the country's development orders may need to be revised.
The development orders are there for a reason, to guide how we develop, where we develop. But I think we probably need to relook at these development orders to ensure that, especially in the rebuild process, that we're not putting back these same critical structures or critical facilities, especially in these vulnerable zones. Because what it means is that it affects the resilience of a community. When your police buildings are damaged, your fire is damaged, your hospitals are damaged, what it means is that your ability for the community to deal with the aftermath of a disaster becomes extremely challenging.
The coalition is calling on the government to, among other things, sign the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, demand greater action on the 1.5 climate target, demand loss and damage financing that reaches affected communities quickly, prioritize community-led assistance, planning and rebuilding, as well as promote innovative, climate-resilient and nature-based solutions in rebuilding. Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
The Agriculture and Mining Minister Floyd Green says his ministry will do everything in its power to support stakeholders in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Mr. Green released his first statement in his capacity as Agriculture Minister following the powerful Category 5 system. Mahiri Stewart has that story.
Floyd Green says last week's landfall of Hurricane Melissa came as the sector was recovering from the passages of both Hurricane Beryl and Tropical Storm Raphael in 2024. Minister Green says those two weather events had already disrupted livelihoods and caused substantial damage. He notes that significant strides were made in the recovery process. Minister Green cited examples such as the domestic crop sector growing by over 30% between the period of July and September this year, the fisheries sector contributing $32.6 billion Jamaican dollars in 2024, and bauxite exports from January to September this year, growing by 14.8%. He says the Category 5 hurricane devastated homes, businesses, and livelihoods. Minister Green notes that the mining sector was impacted by the passage, which in turn will negatively affect productivity. He says Melissa has brought the agriculture and fisheries sector to its knees. Minister Green says he's seeking to reassure farmers, fishers, and mining stakeholders the ministry is working to support them as it charts a road to recovery. He says boots are already on the ground, working with different agencies to assist the sectors and conduct assessments to determine the extent of the damage. Minister Green notes that food security remains of paramount importance to Jamaica. He says the ministry is mobilizing efforts to restore livelihoods, production, and national food security as quickly and safely as possible. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
See twice the style for less at IQ Optical. Buy one pair of glasses and get your second and third pair half price. Don't miss out. Call 876-929-7732 or visit IQ Optical today, where clarity never looked sharper.
The time by IQ Optical is
15 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offices in Mandeville and Mobay are closed until further notice. The Kingston office is operational. Rentokil Initial empathizes with our fellow Jamaicans as we rebuild Jamaica together. The temperature brought to you by Rentokil Initial is...
It's 29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 31 in Montego Bay.
Ho, ho, ho! And what would you like for Christmas?
A paint tough enough for my messy grandkids. Perfect color matching for my living room.
Paint that covers in fewer coats,
A finish that stands up to sun or rain,
BH Paints has you covered. Now up to 25% off.
Be one of the first 200 monthly to register on championsofcolor.com and get a free gallon of BH New Ultimate Advanced Formula. No purchase required.
All I want for Christmas is BH Paints.
Discounts available at BH Paint stores and participating hardwares.
Continuing the news, Member of Parliament for West St. Thomas James Robertson says the passage of Hurricane Melissa has provided an opportunity to address the fundamental policy issues impacting government efficiency. Mr. Robertson says recovering from the hurricane will not be enough unless significant changes are made to government operations.
You can't just go forward because we have a crisis at this time and ignore the past. We will fail if we go forward as a nation in that manner. So I would like to really, for this committee, to put in front of us, and I have spoken to the clerk, and I will be sharing with him the documents we may need as members to look at and to understand and to read and refresh ourselves. The procurement guidelines, how policies are implemented in accordance with our laws is something we have to study and understand.
Mr. Robertson was addressing Wednesday's meeting of Parliament's Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee. The committee has been tasked with assessing the way forward from Hurricane Melissa. As a start, Committee Chairman Heroy Clark will invite the country's utility and telecommunications providers to assess the severity of the hurricane's impact on their systems. Mr. Robertson says it's important that government policy properly align to aid in recovery.
Policy of government is what is going to drive good policy, and implementation of policy is what is going to drive Jamaica's recovery. Our ministers, our bureaucrats in all our agencies are going to have to understand that once we agree on a way forward, the policy is signed off on, statements by ministers, agencies, is the remit of this body to examine. We will have to take it seriously. And we may also have to understand that we have to look at our recent history, at implementation of policy. policy. Where it is failing, where it is challenged, we have to look at that.
James Robertson, Member of Parliament for West St. Thomas.
Several fire stations across the island experienced significant damage during the passage of Hurricane Melissa. That's according to Commissioner Stuart Beckford.
I can confirm that a number of our fire stations were impacted, some more than some, as you can imagine. So, for example, in St. Elizabeth, we have significant damage being done to the Black River Fire Station, windows blown out, doors blown out, significant amount of mud, silt, and debris would have gathered at the fire station, been dumped there by strong wind. The team continued to work from the station responding to emergency. So though we have been impacted negatively from that station, we still continue to provide services.
He noted that fire stations in areas such as Junction, Santa Cruz, and Maypen were impacted by leaking and flooding. Stations in Lucy, Montego Bay, and Ocho Rios were also impacted by the Category 5 system. Multiple private sector groups have joined forces in an effort to provide relief in western Jamaica following the passage of Hurricane Melissa. The groups are the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, the PSOJ, the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, the JMEA, and the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, JCC. A private sector response center has been established to coordinate donations and logistics in order to serve as a bridge between international aid agencies, the government, and the affected communities. The private sector says its goal in the next 30 days is to get life-saving essentials into the hands of as many affected families as possible. PSOJ President Metri Siaga says the private sector has also collaborated with the Council of Voluntary Social Services, CVSS, to collect donations.
We have established a fund in partnership with the CVSS to allow private sector organizations to donate tax-free, maximizing the amount of critical relief items we are able to purchase. All money donated during this immediate response relief period will go towards the manufacturing and distribution of care packages in partnership with the JDF. All in-kind resources provided by our corporate community will be utilized across relief efforts, from care packages to the donation of trucks, starlings, and more.
Metri Siaga, President of the PSOJ.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Trinidad and Tobago's police commissioner has sided with Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar in lauding the recent U.S. bombings of several alleged drug smuggling vessels off the coast of Venezuela. To date, 39 people have reportedly been killed in the U.S. airstrikes. Commissioner Alistair Guevara says the bombings have had a measurable impact on the local drug trade. Guevara revealed that there's a current shortage of illicit drugs, particularly from those trafficked from Venezuela and Colombia. He says the price of illicit narcotics has risen sharply due to a shortage caused by the airstrikes. The commissioner also noted that the demand for illegal narcotics had surged. He says the police have confiscated nearly 2 tons of marijuana since the bombings began.
In the United States, Donald Trump has blamed the ongoing federal government shutdown for his party's bruising election night losses on Tuesday. Democrats won governors' races in Virginia and New Jersey, as well as a high-profile mayoral race in New York City. The Democrats also prevailed on a key ballot initiative in California. On Wednesday, the government shutdown stretched into its 36th day, making it the longest shutdown in U.S. history. It has left government workers without paychecks and millions of Americans without essential services. Trump is now urging Republicans to end the funding gridlock. He acknowledged that it's an unlikely proposition, as most Senate Republicans oppose the move. But Trump warned that he believes Democrats will do so the next time they're in power.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, the government is prepared to dig up bodies hastily buried in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa.
We will recover all bodies, even if we have to exhume. We have to account for every Jamaican who lost their life, because we have to account to their families as well.
Jamaicans for Justice warns women and children are at risk of sexual violence in the parishes worst affected by the hurricane.
Civil society groups are pressing for climate justice as the country continues to reel from the destruction caused by Hurricane Melissa.
Agriculture Minister says Melissa has brought the sector to its knees.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
And listeners, you can find the news on our website at rivanews.ai and on the Riva News app. It's available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next. The headlines at 6.
This is a public service announcement from JPS. The service support hub for the JPS Customer Care Center, located in Western Jamaica, is now back to normal operations. This means that in addition to other support channels, including the MyJPS app, self-service and web chat, customers are now able to call through to the Customer Care Center as before. JPS thanks you for your patience and understanding. That was a public service announcement from JPS.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. We start with the news and cricket. The West Indies will go in search of a 2-0 lead in their 5-match T20 International Series against New Zealand when the teams meet at Eden Park in Auckland, New Zealand on Thursday morning Jamaica time starting at 1:15. The two-time world champions beat the Kiwis by 7 runs in a thrilling opening game at the same venue on Wednesday. Captain Shea Hope, who once again led the scoring for the West Indies, says despite the victory, he was not so happy with the batters, especially in the power play.
I did feel we were a few runs short, but seeing what the circle was like for both teams, I think, I just saw it turned out to be enough. But I just feel as though we could be a little bit more clinical, especially in the power play. I felt as though personally I let them settle a little bit too much. Maybe I was trying to go a bit too hard because I'm expecting a 200 plus total on conditions like this.
The West Indies actually defended the lowest total at the ground as after scoring 164 for 9, they restricted the home team for 157 for 9. And man of the match, Ruston Chase, he was a pick of the bowlers. He bagged a 3 for 26.
There's the 6. He's just hung back on his hip. It's an area that Mitch Satin is looking for a dip. Has he cleared the fielder? Oh, brilliant. Brilliant effort. Got a hand on it. Come back for 2 though, more important. Yeah, can he get under the bat? Well bowled, slap straight, great defensive fielding. They haven't run. All he's got to do. Well, 1 bounce for in vain in the end, and what a famous victory for the West Indies. The lowest ever total defended here at Eden Park.
Veteran fast bowler Kemar Roach is among 9 players who have been invited by Cricket West Indies to take part in a 2-week high-performance preparation camp as part of the build-up to the 3 Test match series on the tour of New Zealand. 37-year-old Roach, along with Tashanarayan Chandapol, Tevin Imlak, Anderson Phillip, Johan Lane, Kevlin Anderson, John Campbell, O.J. Shields and Kavem Hodge will take part in the camp, which is designed specifically for players who are expected to feature in the series and the future international games. With this inclusion, it's now seemed almost certain that Roach who last played for the West Indies in January during the tour of Pakistan, will be called up to bolster the side's bowling attack for the 3-match series, which runs from December 2 to 22. And Roach has played some 85 Test matches for West Indies, has taken 284 wickets, the 5th most by a West Indian bowler in Test cricket. And the camp, which runs from November 4 to 18 at Coolidge Cricket Ground in Antigua, will focus on technical and tactical refinement, match simulation and mental readiness to adapt to New Zealand's challenging conditions. Former champions FC Barcelona, well, they dropped crucial points on the road in the European Champions League on Wednesday. They had to come from behind 3 times to earn a 3-3 draw with Club Brugge in Belgium on Wednesday. The result leaves Barcelona 11th in the standings. Much better look, though, for Manchester City as they easily brushed aside Borussia Dortmund of Germany by 4-1 at the Etihad Stadium today. 2 goals coming from Phil Foden, one from Erling Haaland and the other from Ryan Cherkic.
All right, this Foden, chance for Foden. Oh, that's fantastic! That is a fantastic Foden finish. Just passed it into the corner of the Borussia Dortmund net, and Manchester City off and running. Doku, he skips away from Ryerson, pulls it in. Haaland! Well, Manchester City's number 9 has been breaking hearts in Dortmund since 2022. And he had to score tonight, didn't he? Against his old club. It's another one. Johnson by unit. Phil Foden took it well and scored it brilliantly. It's Foden fireworks on bonfire night at the Etihad. City lead 3-0. And that's as good a finish as the first one. So, free kick taken by Pascal Gross, in by Ryerson. That's a really good goal. And they get one back. And it's Voldemar Anton, the central defender. And wasn't that a nicely worked set piece from Borussia Dortmund? That really was.
And Chelsea, they were on the road. They needed an Alejandro Garnacho equalizer to earn a point in a 2-2 draw with Garbak over in Azerbaijan. Galatasaray, they spanked Ajax Amsterdam by 3-0. Inter Milan beat Kirkuk Almaty 2-1 to maintain their unbeaten run in the campaign. In fact, they've now gone up to 4 wins, the same as Arsenal and Bayern Munich, who are leading the standings. Newcastle United, they defeated Athletic Club by 2-0. And they have moved up to 6th, as long as Bayer Leverkusen, they defeated Benfica by 1-0 in Portugal today. And sports are going to be back with more at 6:05.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade. From Kingston to the world, from Montego Bay to new adventures, and from Ocherias to endless possibilities. Wherever you're headed, we will proudly take you there. Jamaica's Airport, your global gateway. The temperature brought to you by the Airports Authority of Jamaica is
29 degrees Celsius here in the nation's capital, Kingston, 30 in the western city, Montego Bay.
Get ready, students! Get ready, parents! And get ready, schools! From January to March 2026, Nationwide 90 FM is hitting the road again with the NNN School Tour, a fun, organized, and interactive journey bringing excitement, energy, and empowerment straight to your school under the theme Rise Up, Represent, Do It for Your Future.
You know getting nothing less than 98 when school open, me never avoid the gate.
This tour is all about motivating Jamaica's youth to dream big, take action, and own their future. Expect entertainment, inspiring messages, and engaging activities that challenge you to showcase your talents and potential. If you're a student with talent, come show us when the NNN School Tour comes to your school. Stay tuned to Nationwide 90 FM for details on how to participate in the NNN School Tour. So get ready to rise up, represent, and do it for your future.
Public opinion. Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are a Jamaican. Different people.
It's not a matter of a JLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited.
industrial automation, and control solutions.
Not a mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the school as what I can.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team. Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. It's 5:35. It is a Wednesday. Welcome to the cover story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. Good afternoon to you, Siobhan, and good afternoon to our listeners. And for the cover story this afternoon, we'll be speaking to Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton because an emergency field hospital has been set up in St. Elizabeth to provide medical care in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. It's located on the grounds of Black River High School. It's equipped with more than 30 inpatient beds, an operating room for surgical procedures, an emergency room, an obstetric ward for maternal and neonatal care, a laboratory, a pharmacy, and a blood bank.
The 40,000 square foot facility was set up by international disaster relief charity the Samaritan's Purse with support from the Jamaica Defence Force and other partners. The hospital is to be staffed by a team of some 60 experienced medical and operational specialists from Samaritan's Purse with assistance from local doctors. The Health Ministry says the facility is set to begin receiving patients shortly.
And Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the field hospital will bridge the gap while permanent healthcare facilities destroyed by a hurricane are restored. In the meantime, Minister Tufton says over 100 bed spaces were lost in one of the wards at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. He says the team is working on supplying electricity through a generator.
The minister also noted that the water supply at the facility was compromised, but says arrangements are being made with the National Water Commission to restore service. And Dr. Tufton says efforts surrounding public health will be ramped up in the wake of Hurricane Melissa. Food contamination after a natural disaster is a serious risk due to contamination from floodwater, sewage, or lack of refrigeration. Similarly, a natural disaster, waterborne diseases can arise from contaminated sources and poor hygiene, leading to illnesses such as hepatitis, E. coli, cholera, and leptospirosis. Well, Dr. Tufton, as said before, is with us. Good afternoon, Dr. Tufton.
Hi, good evening to you and your listeners.
It is good to hear from you, Dr. Tufton. So just to give us an immediate update on the field hospital, the early update said it would be up and running shortly. Is shortly now?
Yes, it started operating this morning. Not sure what level of activity. I'm going to report, but they were giving the go-ahead to start this morning.
And in terms of its utilization, well, you say you're not sure of the activity, but in terms of what it is to be used for, what are those gaps that it's intended to fill?
Well, the Black River Hospital was essentially could not operate. Serious areas of A&E, accident and emergency operating theater, would have had to be suspended because of the damage. So we had to transfer the inpatients, the patients there to Mandeville. Right now they have cleaned up some of the areas and they have buildings across the road from the hospital where they They have a maternity suite. So they're doing some efforts now outside of the main building, but still linked to the hospital itself. But the primary roll around A&E would have been a problem. So this field hospital is a significant filling of that gap, where anyone with a serious problem can go there and get the help, both from the team that's there, which is local and international, and then of course the facilities, which I toured myself and looks, it's very good facilities.
And based on the projection, Dr. Tufton, how long do you anticipate the field hospital will remain in operation?
Well, it has the sturdiness to remain for some time. The team that is there from overseas are not going to be there permanently. So ultimately, we will have possession of the facility, and our local team can assume full control. The idea, of course, is to quickly bring back Black River Hospital to some sense of normality. There are some decisions that are going to have to be taken at the highest level, at the level of cabinet, because we have to make some determination as to whether or not the hospital location is an ideal location. Indeed, the 3 hospitals on the coast, Black River, Noel Homes, and Falmouth, there are some strategic decisions that I think need to be taken, and I will engage a process to start to do a technical assessment, and hopefully we'll have a discussion at the level of cabinet on that. But in the meantime, we would certainly want to bring it back to a point where we can, eventually re-engage most of the building, certainly for inpatient care, A&E, and so on. But the field hospital will be able to provide the critical support for some time while that takes place.
When you say strategic decisions, Minister Tufton, I'm assuming you mean in terms of their location.
Right. I think a decision has to be taken to determine, in the light of the hurricane, whether our healthcare facilities are ideally placed in some of the areas where they are. And it's not just Black River. It's as I said, the others. It's not going to be a decision by me, of course, alone, but I think we owe it to ourselves, having suffered this disaster, to kind of reset and make, an easy opportunity, which it represents, even though it's an unfortunate circumstance, to determine exactly how we build resilience in terms of some of our critical infrastructure, and healthcare being a critical one. But that doesn't mean we will not restore it to engage and have a place, at least in the medium term. But there's some strategic considerations that I think may be necessary going forward.
Mm-hmm. And help us to understand, Dr. Tufton, the collaboration now on the ground with the international organization, Samaritan's Purse, the Jamaica Defense Force, the local authority. How is that collaboration working on the ground?
Good. I had a meeting with Samaritan's Purse up to late last evening to sort out and ensure better coordination, the best possible coordination. We had a meeting yesterday with over 30 NGOs, bilateral, multilateral partners at the Courtney Hotel, because what we have done is essentially try to bring everybody under one umbrella to build better coordination. There's a lot of offers of help. We appreciate the offers, but we also understand the pitfalls of everybody going off in their own direction that could create more chaos and be counterproductive. So I've appointed a team internally. So that team involves a private sector rep, Mr. Howard Mitchell. It involves PAHO, Pan American Health, which has significant experience in disaster response. They have brought in some other people, and they've come in since yesterday, and we are now coordinating. So Samaritan's Purse is just one of several. In fact, I'm just coming from the airport where we greeted over 76 Spanish citizens who are doctors, nurses, engineers, and they are coming to install and operate, in the short term anyway, another field hospital which will replace that, the Falmouth Hospital grounds. So you're going to see that build out, and hopefully by the weekend we'll have a second one that is in place. But these are just two of the larger responses, but there are many others who are out there, and we're trying to coordinate to ensure that it is a most effective approach to serving the people on the ground who are the victims of the hurricane.
And speaking of that, Dr. Tufton, in terms of the personnel themselves, I know you made an appeal, or the health ministry made an appeal rather, to bring in some specialists to relieve those personnel who have been on the front lines for the longest while since this disaster started. Have you had an opportunity now to rotate out staff and give some of those people some well-needed rest and ability to go and tend to their own families who most likely have been impacted as well?
So that's a part of the delegations that are coming in. I mean, the field hospital with Samaritan's Purse is equipped with not just mechanical devices and infrastructure, but people. They will work with our people, but they do offer significant breaks so that our physicians, nurses, other workers will have time to sort themselves out. And that's a part of the overall plan. So just as the Spanish have come in, the Samaritan Purse is here, there are several others, and what we want is to coordinate with them so that we can allow our locals who are themselves fatigued and have suffered losses to organize themselves. And that is happening now as we speak, as is the case with Black Rivers.
Okay.
Hold it for us, Dr. Tufton. We're upon a break. Let's take this break and come back to continue the discussion with you.
Sure.
Protecting your personal data is a priority for the Jamaica Customs Agency. We urge you to use the agency's official platforms to conduct your business. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is...
It's 15 minutes to 6.
MSME operators, the NWC MSME Amnesty is a lifeline. Grab it. Apply between September 1 and November 30, 2025. Visit nwcjamaica.com. Email us at customercare@nwc.com.jm. You can also visit any commercial office or dial 888-NWC. Get a 50% debt write-off on your small commercial account if you pay all other outstanding debts or sign a payment agreement to do so in 3 months. Apply today.
Need to make a change to your title or need a title? Geoland Title Limited is the place to be. They do lost title application, add and remove names from titles, wills, estates, first-time registration, land surveys included, affordable rates and flexible payment options, National Land Agency adjudication and land titling waivers available. They have 8 locations island-wide. Call 876-754-6436 or visit their website at geolandonline.com. Geoland Title Limited. Secure your land, secure your title.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We're talking the situation in terms of Hurricane Melissa and the response in health. And we have with us the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton. Dr. Tufton, I see some suggestions here online asking us to reach out to the U.S. government to have them bring the USNS Mercy here to provide assistance. But I'm wondering the feasibility based on the location of the most impacted areas, if that would even be possible.
Well, I know that the U.S. has been assisting. In fact, when I left the airport, I believe I saw 2 Army aircraft landing with more supplies. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is the contact there, and we have gotten a lot of support. So as it relates to that specific support, I think it's a function of an assessment by them and to some extent consultation with us as to what is appropriate for the response. Right now, what we are concerned about, having done the assessment, is to ensure in 5 parishes that have been impacted that our accident and emergency services are up as quickly as possible. At a long meeting today, and in Trelawney, Cornwall Regional, that's St. James, Hanover, Sablamar, and of course St. Elizabeth, I am comfortable, relatively so, despite the challenges, that if someone has a life-threatening emergency, they can go to the hospitals and get life-saving care. What we are trying to consolidate around that is to ensure reliable water, reliable electricity generation, reliable medication, that the staff, though fatigued, are there, and that an operating theater facility, which is part of emergency care, is working. Beyond that, we are moving now to the community care, which is to get out into the communities through the health centers, many of which are damaged badly. At least each of those parishes have anywhere between 20 and 25 health centers. At least half of them are badly damaged, sometimes a little more, 60-70%. So we have to now determine which ones are functional, get them back up and running, which ones are easy to repair, get them repaired. The difficult ones, we may have to put a temporary facility and sort of get back into the community to treat with those who are chronically ill, the persons who are diabetics and so on. So the focus right now is to seek help that is relevant to the challenge that we have. And I think so far we are getting ahead in terms of getting that kind of help to sort of chart a course to normality.
So if there's someone, Dr. Tufton, let's say in St. Elizabeth, with a life-threatening injury, is it that the person can now go to the field hospital, or is it that they're expected to go to Mandeville?
No, they can go to the field hospital. Absolutely. There are doctors there, surgeons, specialists, emergency medical. You can go to the field hospital if it's a life-threatening. If it's not life-threatening after they triage you, because they have a triage area, then they would perhaps recommend you to a primary care facility. And they are actually helping us to set up a primary care facility on the grounds of the health center, which is across from the hospital, which lost its roof. And so the primary care facility will deal with the non-urgent cases. The hospital will deal with the urgent cases.
And I'm glad you went there, Minister, because under these circumstances, especially in consideration to Jamaica's NCD burden being so high, how are those with those concerns faring at this time of crisis? Are there centers currently in existence where they can seek things like insulin and other medications that they may need before it actually becomes an emergency case?
Right. So that's a big challenge that we're now confronting. So people who will require their medication, the National Health Fund has started with its mobile pharmacies in all the parishes to go out into the communities where they can now deliver medication. Some of the roads are impassable, so we're working with NWA and others to clear those roads. But we're going to be ramping that up in the next couple of days to make community outreach an important feature of the response. In any event, though, if one feels sufficiently threatened, the hospital in the town center is there. There may be some difficulties in some of the communities where there is an absolute urgency. There is the search and rescue, or the rescue. We work with the JDF. We have actually transferred a number of patients using the JDF. And indeed, Samaritan's Purse has 2 helicopters as part of their fleet. One is more primarily recargo, and another smaller one that can from time to time help with that kind of support in rural deep rural parts of the parishes. Those are based in Mandeville, and there's a coordination that takes place there. So we've it's a tragedy, absolute tragedy. But everybody knows it's a tragedy now. What we have to do is focus on the solutions. And so what we've been able to do is to try and build out a solution to address the challenge at hand.
And Minister, just shifting a little bit to Cornwall Regional Hospital, you mentioned that more than 100 bed spaces were lost. What's the timeline for restoring that capacity?
Right. So what we did, we have done an assessment on Cornwall. I don't know what the figure is to restore those beds. but we are also looking at the possibility of not so much a field hospital, but a ward, a temporary ward space that would house maybe 100 beds. We're working with PAHO and talking to some of our international partners. We would like to secure that and bring that in quickly and put that out there while we replace. Now, Cornwall is each location is a special circumstance, because what we really need is a bridging arrangement with Cornwall until we get back the main building, because the areas that were damaged were makeshift areas. It really were converting balcony space at the original nurses and doctors' quarters into ward space, and it had a frame with zinc, and all of that went. We want to put that back in place, but we anticipate that in another 6 to 8 months, all other things being equal, Cornwall, the main building, which is being renovated, will come into operation, or Western Child and Adolescent. And so all of what we do now may still have to be dismantled, so we go in the main building. So we don't want to spend too much money, but enough to restore that 100 plus beds to ensure that we can treat the patients. So it's a kind of delicate balance to assess and to determine what exactly is essential to be spent, recognizing that within a year we're going to move over into the main building.
So the timeline for the restoration of the main building of CRH and the Western Regional Children's Hospital has not been adjusted by Hurricane Melissa.
They're assessing. Fortunately, there weren't many damages, but it was open space, so I'm sure that there is some. They'll let me know. But I would comfortably say that those two facilities should be available next year sometime. Hopefully earlier than later next year, or at least mid-year. And so even if once to fix the other areas, knowing that within a year we're going to be moving out, and we may still have to then adjust to go back to the original purpose, is something that we have to bear in mind also.
And then finally from me, Minister Tufton, you spoke to it previously, and I want to get an update in terms of combating the potential of outbreaks of diseases such as cholera. We see we're in Haiti, they're already running into quite an outbreak over there. How are our own efforts in terms of minimizing that potential possibility?
Right, so we take that very seriously. In the aftermath of a storm of this kind, water is a problem, and the quality of water. And of course, there are many dead animals and solid waste and excrement, people without toilets, that kind of thing. And all of that pose a serious risk. We have about 600 public health officers. About 100 or so of them were impacted by the storm, so they are not as functional. The others are out in the field, and we're going to be intensifying that campaign and that movement into communities. There's food spoilage, which they're going to be doing a lot. We've already condemned a lot of food being gone out into the trade. And then there is mosquito-borne diseases. And so the team that goes out to do vector control have been engaged, and we're going to be taking on some temporary workers. So that's going to be a big one. The challenge of communication in those communities with no electricity, so no radio and TV sometimes, is going to be big. So we're going to be engaging other forms of communication, town criers and so on. But the team will become a very critical point of contact with the average citizen to try and ensure that we minimize the risks that are associated with those circumstances.
That is Dr. Christopher Tufton, the Minister of Health and Wellness. Thank you for joining us, Minister, and as always, all the best in terms of getting things back on track.
Thank you very much. All the best. Bye.
And just before we go, Sharon Bless, I did ask the minister about the USNS Mercy, and he says that assessment is being done, but thus far he is comfortable with the level of assistance that the U.S. government has provided in terms of workers and additional supplies. So that question was asked. So we now wrap up, listeners, and we come back later. It's now time for the headlines.
News on the go. The latest stories from Jamaica and around the world are literally a finger tap away. Keep up to date with Team Revolution 24 hours a day online via nationwideradiojm.com. Listen live, read the latest stories, hear every soundbite. Be a part of the vibrant online debate via Facebook and Twitter. Now you can get all your favorite premium nationwide content at your convenience. Visit the Android Play Store and download it for free today. NationwideRadioJM.com. All day, every day. Team Revolution.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
6 o'clock.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Nora Gay Banton. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the government is prepared to exhume bodies which were hastily buried in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. He says this is necessary to ensure proper accountability and identification.
There are deaths that have not yet been, we know of them, but we can't account as to whether or not they were directly related or indirectly related. And so they are going through that process, as well as there are deaths which we know of, but we haven't yet recovered the bodies. Yes, and people have resorted to burying. However, just to be clear, we will recover all bodies, even if we have to exhume. And we will go through a process of proper identification and, where possible, determination of death. The science is there to do it, and we will do it. We have to account for every Jamaican who lost their life, because we have to account to their families as well, and we have to get a full understanding of the impact of the disaster.
The official death toll from Hurricane Melissa currently stands at 32. But anecdotal accounts suggest the tally is expected to increase. MP for Eastern Westmoreland, Dr. Dayton Campbell, told the House of Representatives that several bodies in his constituency have already been buried in marooned and hard-to-access communities. He says these may not be part of the official count. Dr. Holness says Jamaicans should prepare for an increase in the official death toll.
We have some forensic teams here, and they are already starting to do the forensic checks on the bodies that they have recovered. I want to say to Jamaicans that we should prepare our minds that the number of deaths may be more than what we are already hearing, because we can't tell you now that we'll recover everybody right away. It does take some time, especially in communities that are marooned. And it is really unfortunate, but it is just the reality of the situation when you are hit by a Category 5 hurricane.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Holness says approximately $170 million has been raised for the Hurricane Melissa relief effort through the official online donation website.
On our supportjamaica.gov.jm, which was built in record time by the Amber Group, which is the central hub for donations to Jamaica from the diaspora and the world. We have so far raised 170 million Jamaican dollars in contributions. And I encourage Jamaicans and our friends all over the world to give. Supportjamaica.gov.jm. All contributions go centrally to ODPEM, which is the government's official disaster management agency.
The Prime Minister also disclosed that nearly 120 relief flights have landed in the country since the disaster.
Relief flights began on October 29, and commercial passenger services resumed on October 30th. From October 29th to November 2, airports processed 350 flights, including 162 commercial flights and 117 relief and military missions. Domestic air drones, including Negril and Tinson Pen, are also operational.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Human rights lobby group Jamaicans for Justice JFJ is calling for specific attention to be paid to the risk of sexual and domestic violence in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. Michael Jackson is the executive director of JFJ. She says women and children in the hardest hit parishes are particularly vulnerable.
I want us to also spare a thought to women and children who have been displaced, who are at risk of sexual predators. I've spoken to 2 NGO partners, one of whom indicated so far of domestic violence happening even in a space of devastation. So you have sexual violence that will happen. And as we reach out to the communities, one of the things we are cognizant of that some families can't afford to even go where the aid is because they have to consider that they can't leave their children because you do have sexual predators around.
Ms. Jackson says while she commends the government for the initial mobilization and communication, the administration must ensure that laws against consumer and labor exploitation are properly enforced. She says these are usually issues that arise in the aftermath of natural disasters. Ms. Jackson says there are also other human rights issues that require urgent attention.
We do have certain vulnerable groups, persons living with HIV, for example, who have been marooned in communities, displaced without their medication, so they are unable to adhere to their treatment regimen if it is that their medication is out. So it's a devastating effect that we're seeing.
Michael Jackson, Executive Director for Jamaicans for Justice. Member of Parliament for West St. Thomas, James Robertson, says the passage of Hurricane Melissa has provided an opportunity to address the fundamental policy issues impacting government efficiency. Mr. Robertson says recovering from the hurricane will not be enough unless significant changes are made to government operations.
You can't just go forward because we have a crisis at this time and ignore the past. We will fail if we go forward as a nation in that manner. So I would like to really, for this committee, to put in front of us, and I have spoken to the clerk, and I will be sharing with him the documents we may need as members to look at and to understand and to read and refresh ourselves. The procurement guidelines, how policies are implemented in accordance with our laws is something we have to study and understand.
Mr. Robertson was addressing Wednesday's meeting of Parliament's Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee. The committee has been tasked with assessing the way forward from Hurricane Melissa. As a start, Committee Chairman Hugh Clark will invite the country's utility and telecommunications providers to assess the severity of the hurricane's impact on their systems. Mr. Robertson says it's important that the government policy properly aligns to aid in recovery. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Sport is next.
To do in one location, make Megamart your one-stop shop. Pick up your groceries and houseware needs, grab a bite and pay some bills, fill your prescriptions and see the beauty products in our pharmacy, all in one amazing location. My Megamart, the best value by far.
Taboo topics,
riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between.
Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Boyatings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss.
Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored. Boyatings After Dark.
Public opinion.
Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a JLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Mount Pleasant Academy of Jamaica and Defence Force of Trinidad and Tobago have just kicked off their CONCACAF Caribbean Club's second leg semi-final at the National Stadium. Mount Pleasant are holding a healthy 5-1 lead from the first leg, but Coach Theodore Whitmore says he's still not taking any chances.
We want to approach a game that we are down 5-1. That's the approach. So we don't want to take anything for granted. Again, this is football, and once you don't turn up on the pitch, so if we go into the game with the mindset that we need in 5-1, then we are in serious trouble. So we have to approach a game like we are down 5-1, and the players, as I said before, the players know what we need to be doing. We just have to go out there. Again, we talk about the country, the state of the country, what we are in. So we just have to go out there, can't drop our edge, we just have to go out there, put in a shift, and get the job done.
That's Theodore Whitmore, coach of Mount Pleasant Academy. Former champions Barcelona dropped crucial points on the road in the European Champions League on Wednesday. They were forced to come from behind 3 times to earn a point in the 3-3 draw with Club Brugge of Belgium. The result leaves Barcelona 11th in the standings. Much better luck, though, for Manchester City. They easily brushed aside Borussia Dortmund of Germany by 4-1 at the Etihad Stadium. 2 goals coming from Phil Foden and 1 each from Erling Haaland and Ryan Cherkic.
All right, this. Foden. Chance for Foden! Oh, that's fantastic! That is a fantastic Foden finish. Just passed it into the corner of the Borussia Dortmund net and Manchester City off and running. Doku, he skips away from Ryerson, falls it in. Haaland! Well, Manchester City's number 9 has been breaking hearts in Dortmund since 2022. And he had to score tonight, didn't he? Against his old club. It's another one. Bayini. Phil Foden took it well and scored it brilliantly. It's Foden fireworks on bonfire night at the Etihad. City lead 3-0. And that's as good a finish as the first one. So, free kick taken by Pascal Gross, in by Ryerson. That's a really good goal. And they get one back. And it's Voldemar Anton, the central defender. And wasn't that a nicely worked set piece from Borussia Dortmund? That really was.
Thrilling game at the Etihad today between Manchester City and, of course, Borussia Dortmund. Chelsea were on the road and they needed an Alejandro Garnacho equalizer to share points in a 2-2 draw with Garbak over in Azerbaijan. Galatasaray, they spanked Ajax 3-0 in Amsterdam. Inter Milan, they beat Kiryat Almaty by 2-1 to maintain their unbeaten run, so they are now up to 4 wins, the same as Arsenal and Bayern Munich, who are all at the top of the standings. Newcastle United, they were also in action today. They defeated Athletic Club by 2-0, and they're now up to 6th in the standing. And Bayer Leverkusen, they defeated Benfica by 1-0 over there in Portugal. The West Indies will go in search of a 2-0 lead in their 5-match T20 International Series against New Zealand when they meet in Game 2 at Eden Park in Auckland, starting at 1:15 on Thursday morning Jamaica time. The 2-time world champions beat the Kiwis by 7 runs in a thrilling opening game at the same venue on Wednesday. Captain Shea Hope, who once again top scored for the West Indies, says despite the victory, he was not so happy with the batters, especially in the power play.
I did feel we were a few runs short, but seeing what the circle was like for both teams, I think, as we saw, it turned out to be enough. But I just feel as though we could be a little bit more clinical, especially in the power play. I felt as though personally I let him settle a little bit too much. Maybe I was trying to go a bit too hard because I'm expecting a 200 plus total on conditions like this.
The West Indies actually defended the lowest total at the ground, as after posting 164 for 9, they restricted New Zealand to 157 for 9. And man of the match was Roston Chase. He bagged a 3 for 36.
There's the 6. He's just hung back on his hip. It's an area that Mitch Satin is looking for a dip. Has he cleared the fielder? Oh, brilliant. Brilliant effort. Got a hand on it. Come back for 2 though, more important. Yeah, can he get under the bat? Well bowled, slap straight, great defensive fielding. They haven't run. All he's got to do. Well, one bounce for in vain in the end, and what a famous victory for the West Indies. The lowest ever total defended here at Eden Park.
And just to remind you, the game bowls off at 1:15 tomorrow morning, Jamaica time. A veteran fast bowler, Kemar Roach, is amongst 9 players who have been invited by Cricket West Indies to take part in a 2-week high-performance preparation camp as part of the build-up for their 3-test series over in New Zealand. The 37-year-old Roach, along with Tajnarayan Chandapal, Tevin Imlak, Anderson Phillip, Johan Lane, Kevlin Anderson, John Campbell, O.J. Shields, and Kavem Hodge will take part in the camp, which is designed specifically for players or expected to feature in the series or further international matches by the West Indies. With his inclusion, it now seems almost certain that Roach, who last played a test match for the West Indies in January during the tour of Pakistan, will be called up to bolster the side's bowling attack for the 3-match series, which will run from December 2 to 22. Roach has played 85 test matches for the West Indies. He has taken 284, the 5th most of all West Indian bowlers. The camp, which will run from November 4 to 18 at Coolidge Cricket Ground in Antigua, will focus on technical and tactical refinement, match simulation, and mental readiness to adapt to New Zealand's challenging conditions. It will be led by head coach of the West Indies Academy, Ramesh Subhagasingh, while assistant coach Rohan Nurse will oversee tactical and technical development. 45-year-old tennis star Venus Williams has been issued a wild card for the Auckland Classic set for January 2026. The former world's #1 and 7-time Grand Slam champion made her comeback earlier this year in July after going 16 months without competitive tennis. Nicholas Lamprine, the tournament director at the Auckland Classic, says it's an honor to have Venus participating at the Classic at her age.
Venus started, she was 15 years old and she's still competing. At the time, Helen Clark was the Prime Minister, which shows you the longevity she's had over the years. But she still has the passion for the game, and her level is still very much up there. She's been there 7 times. So I was out in the US scouting over the summer, and I noticed that she was back playing, and I was really impressed by the level she was displaying on court. I wasn't expecting this, and so straight away I made contact with her entourage. Didn't hear from them for a few months, and then finally, I think 2 weeks ago, she made contact again and decided that she was ready to come.
That's Nicholas Lamprine. The Auckland Classic set for January 5 to 11, and it precedes the Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the year, and that's scheduled to start on January 18 in Melbourne, Australia. The Chicago Bulls, well, they continue to enjoy life atop the Eastern Conference and improve their record to 6 wins from 7 games in the NBA, and this after they beat the Philadelphia 76ers 113-111 in Tuesday night action. The Bulls were led by the Aussie Josh Giddey, who registered a game-high 29 points.
A chance. Giddey's open, a 3. Got it!
Bang, bang, bang. Good hustle by the Bulls that time. I mean, he's playing with so much confidence. You see him shooting the basketball. He's not afraid to let it go.
Averaging close to 34 a game. Another runner from Giddey. This one goes down. Giddey with a spin toward the hoop. Off with the left hand.
Well, Josh is, again, we saw this in New York. When the Bulls were struggling offensively, he just took it upon himself.
With a big deficit on their hands. Edgecombe was looking for a cutting Bona. Giddey grabbed it. De La Terry on the run. Fast break layup.
And Giddey's performance nullified that of Tyrese Maxey, who had 39 points for the Philadelphia 76ers. Giddey shared that he was pleased with how his team conducted themselves on the court.
Yeah, we were always confident in each other, and I think it was a good
great test tonight to see how we responded after our first loss in New York. Another really good team coming in here tonight that's been hot as well. So this was an awesome test and unbelievable resilience by the group to come out the second half the way we did. And down 20-25, would have been easy to throw the towel in and, call it a night, get ready for the next one. But credit to the guys. I thought our bench unit was unbelievable in keeping us in that game. And, I thought down the stretch executed really well. We did a great job. Vooch did an unbelievable job on Embiid late down the stretch, forcing him into tough middies, and we rebounded and ran. So team effort, total team effort tonight.
That's Josh Giddey. And finally in sports at this time, Berlin will be the third German city this season to host an NFL game when the Indianapolis Colts tackle the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday at the Olympia Stadion. The league also announced that a fourth city will be named in short order. That's sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:20.
Every school is free of unhealthy, ultra-processed products. Those high in salt, fats, and sugar. If only that weren't a dream. The reality is that many children have an unhealthy diet at school, and 23% of them are overweight or obese. This can lead to hypertension, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Let's protect our children's right to health with a policy for schools that prevents unhealthy food marketing and ensures access to nutritious foods. The time is now. Let's implement the National School Nutrition Policy. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners.
This is a public service announcement from JPS. The service support hub for the JPS Customer Care Center, located in Western Jamaica, is now back to normal operations. This means that in addition to other support channels, including the My JPS app, self-service, and web chat, customers are now able to call through to the Customer Care Center as before. JPS thanks you for your patience and understanding. That was a public service announcement from JPS.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
Not a mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the schoolers who are taking it.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team. Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Get ready, students! Get ready, parents! And get ready, schools! From January to March 2026, Nationwide 90 FM is hitting the road again with the NNN School Tour, a fun, organized, and interactive journey bringing excitement, energy, and empowerment straight to your school under the theme Rise Up, Represent, Do It for Your Future.
You know getting nothing less than 98 when school open, never avoid the gate.
This tour is all about motivating Jamaica's youth to dream big, take action, and own their future. Expect entertainment, inspiring messages, and engaging activities that challenge you to showcase your talents and potential. If you're a student with talent, come show us when the NNN School Tour comes to your school. Stay tuned to Nationwide 90 FM for details on how to participate in the NNN School Tour. So get ready to rise up, represent, and do it for your future.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Special good evening to our YouTubers. We invite you to weigh in live today on today's Public Opinion. So, let's get to it, folks. More than $1 trillion, or between 6 and 7 billion US dollars. Now, that's the early estimate provided by the Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, of the cost of Hurricane Melissa's passage over Jamaica. That was last week. Dr. Holness gave the estimate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday when he updated the nation on the government's response to the Category 5 hurricane. He also announced that the fiscal rules are to be suspended. He says the country's debt-to-GDP ratio is expected to climb as a result of the devastation. The Prime Minister did deliver grim news. The damage of the hurricane could exceed $7 billion, or in excess of 1 trillion Jamaican dollars, and he stressed that this is a very early estimate with expectations of an even higher sum in the future.
But I wish to share very preliminary, high-level estimates only to illustrate the scale of the devastation. Based on benchmarks from comparable regional disasters, physical damage to housing, commercial buildings, roads, electricity, water, and telecommunications infrastructure is estimated between 6 to 7 billion US dollars, equivalent to roughly 28 to 32% of last year's GDP, last fiscal year's GDP. It is, members, a major hit to our economy.
That's Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Now, to set the figure in context, the country's current annual budget is $1.2 trillion. So with that said and done, for Public Opinion today, we ask, what's your reaction to the $1 trillion bill left by Hurricane Melissa? And now we are going to go to Instagram to see the answers. And by Instagram, I mean we're going to go over to Twitter to see the answers. $1 trillion budget left behind by Hurricane Melissa. Mind you, $1.2 trillion is in the budget for this fiscal year. So if we go over to X, we'll see, have mercy, Lord, says Thea Davis. We need you now more than ever. Jamaica will rise. We are a resilient nation that is ready to rebuild stronger. Oxford Dictionary says Category 5 storm infrastructures need to be implemented now, so down the line those estimates would come down. And Times of Jamaica says, I'm glad to God that Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is the Prime Minister of Jamaica today. Let's check over on Facebook now to see what folks over there are saying. What's your reaction? $1 trillion bill left behind, and that's just the preliminary figures based off of the little assessment that we've managed to get done the first week. It's probably going to be a bit more once more is discovered. But as we go ahead, Rainess Faith Marsh on Facebook says Jamaica has been a level head in heated world affairs. Her leaders never try to score political points or be placed on the honor roll of bloggers. Jamaica will get the support of the international community as she seeks to rebuild smarter, one building and community at a time. The price tag is super outrageous, and I suspect when the rust settles it may be even higher, but we can and will come back eventually. Carlington Bartley says, our silver lining behind the dark cloud is the tried, tested, proven leadership of the Prime Minister and the competent, fit-for-purpose members of his team. Maxine Riley says, it is a tall order indeed, but we can and we will honor this bill. My grandparents used to say this parable to me when I was a child. Chicken says he does not cry for feathers, he cries for life, because once there's life, feathers will grow. Humongous, says Philip Jackson, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first steps. We must bank on our faith and resilience rather than our pockets to address our issues, starting all over again. It's gonna be hard, so hard, but we will make it. Doreen Lewis says it's a hard hill to climb, but little by little we'll get there. Jill Beckford says Category 5 hurricanes caused devastation. Sadly, this one tore through Jamaica. It could have gone east to west, devastating the entire country rather than the western areas. Julie Carter says it could be more than that amount. It's a Category 5, but one day at a time. Audley Phillips says, these are the realities that we will have to face going forward. Global warming is real, hurricanes are coming fast and furious, and we have to prepare ourselves for outcomes and cost implications. Cleveland Richards says, not surprised the hurricane was strong, but we'll bounce back in the name of the Lord, with the help of the Lord. Okay. A record Category 5 hurricane will always result in a record repair bill, and it could be more than $1 trillion, says George Elliott. Bev Samuda says it's expected with a Category 5. It could have been more. And Kevon Fraser says, if this case is a trillion loss, how will we prepare for a case of this nature if it should reoccur with a high expectancy 5 years or less? We should look into mitigating approaches while we are recovering. And Natalie Winter says, have mercy on us. All right, YouTubers, what say you? How much time do we have? Do we have enough time for the YouTubers? I hope so. What do we have here? Jamaica will rise. I am confident in the leadership of Dr. Holness, says Michael 3711. What's this? As long as we keep Andrew at the helm, we will build back stronger, says Political Wife Style. MJ 2500 says, that's a lot of money, but we will bounce back. Good afternoon, Mahir, says MS8329. I don't like this new YouTube thing, because it shows the person's ats, but it doesn't show what their display name is. I know this isn't everyone's display name. Who Am I says a trillion or a quadrillion? It's certainly not a quadrillion. Certainly not a quadrillion, man. Says, who am I? It's 1 trillion at the moment. Alrighty. Sharon Bless, I was just joking, Sharon. My gosh. There's always time for the YouTubers, Sharon. Come on now. You should know when I'm having a laugh. What else we got here? We shall overcome, says Maureen McKenzie 4147. What else we got here? Jamaica will have to rebuild urbanization to ISM ranking, says Reggae-matic 1. They will have to flatten an area of 5 square miles just to set the foundations in each parish, then fence it off for construction. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Political Wife Style. It shows the handles, not the names. It used to be the names, but when I read y'all handles, it doesn't. I know that's not necessarily some of your names, so it's kind of hard sometimes. Dennis Spence says coordination and honesty. Mikkel says no surprise that it's costly, but Jamaica will be rebuilt. Danny B says PM and his team of competent leaders will recover stronger over the next 2 to 3 years. Okay. Blessed Marcia Favor says $1 trillion is a drop in the bucket, Mahiri. The East needs to adopt the West, says Lodi B. And that was an interesting discussion we were having earlier today, if we might actually need to move folks from the West that's been put in tatters and move them into spaces in the East. We're going to have to take people out the West, put them in the East while the West is rebuilt. That might have to be a way forward, but it's up to the people of the West to leave. I mean, you couldn't force them to go into shelters. You can't force them to leave what's left of their homes, even if they don't have a home left. You know what I'm saying? So there you have it, folks. Someone says, yes, they need to be moved. Well, it's not a case where you can forcibly evacuate persons, can you? I mean, if they want to stay, they want to stay and rebuild. You know, I know a couple folks that are over there rebuilding. What's going on? Who am I? Why were you asking such hard questions at the press briefing, Mahiri? It's my job, who am I? It's my job to ask hard questions. That'll be an interesting topic, says Mika. Oh, see, we're diverting the topic now into what persons in the West should do. Do they stay and rebuild or do they move? I mean, again, it's up to them. I think everyone should be able to evaluate their own situation, their own conditions, and determine whether they think they're better off elsewhere, if they're better off staying in the West and rebuilding. But the bottom line is, with a $1 trillion bill that's going to go higher, that is going to take a while. And it's going to take a lot of money to not just rebuild one person's house, but everything around their house, all the shops and things that contributed to the parish's economy that got destroyed in the storm, the hurricane rather. all of that's going to take years to rebuild, man. You've seen the pictures. Houses, neighborhoods completely flattened. Businesses, whether small or large, town centers, Black River barely even exist anymore. Same with Sav. It's not looking good. It's going to take years to rebuild. But are you in it for the rebuild, or are you going to wait and see? That's the real question. Rebuild where? In floodplain areas to cause such devastation again? And that's another thing I think about Katabi. I'm like, if we rebuild here and it happens again, you're going to have to make sure that whatever you build can withstand Category 5. I mean, all buildings now are going to have to make sure they can withstand a Category 5 hurricane, withstand 200 plus mile an hour force winds. And you know how many people building would even expect themselves to be in a situation like that back then? Probably not many. But now, in this climate, with this hot water that we call the Caribbean Sea, that's only getting hotter because of global warming, who's to say another Cat 5 won't come anytime soon? You don't want it to happen. But who says it won't? Who says it won't, man? We keep going. Obedience is better than sacrifice. I think more people should use the shelters again. It's something you can only suggest. But again, you can't tell people what to do, especially when they have nothing. You know, it's hard to just go up to somebody and say, you need to go do this, you need to go do that. And it's pretty difficult, yeah? Everyone should be able to just make their own evaluation and make their own choices. But yeah, man, $1 trillion to rebuild the West. And I mean, we talk about the West. There's still some other places in the East that are damaged, but certainly not on the scale of the West. But if you just evaluate the whole thing, $1 trillion or more, not even or, probably will be more once more evaluation is done. We're still in the hurricane season. It ends November 30th, and that's very true, man. And even outside of the hurricane season, what's stopping more storms? What's stopping more periods of heavy rain from falling onto places that are already flattened? Yeah, that's gonna affect rebuilding as well. Oh dear, just talking about it just makes the head heavy, you know what I'm saying? It really does. But I think we can end it here. We can move on to the business report. I think we had a pretty decent discussion. I feel like I did a lot of yapping today, but that's because of the comments I was reading. Thank you, folks, for tuning in to Public Opinion. Let's go to the business report now.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is...
It's 6:36. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Business Report here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has put forward his federal budget, which lays out an ambitious plan to transform Canada's economy and deal with the challenge of U.S. tariffs. It has been billed as an investment budget by the government. The fiscal plan increases Canada's deficit to 78 billion Canadian dollars, or just over 55 billion US, the second largest in history. The spending is offset by plans to attract $1 trillion of investment into Canada over the next 5 years, with the federal government arguing more restrained spending would eliminate vital social programs and funding for the country's future. And over in the U.S., President Donald Trump's use of sweeping tariffs faced sharp questioning at Supreme Court on Wednesday in a case with major implications for the president's agenda and the global economy. A majority of justices, including several conservatives, expressed doubts about the White House's justification of the import duties, which the president has said are necessary to restore America's manufacturing base and fix its trade imbalance. The measures are being challenged by a number of small businesses and a group of states which contend that the president has overstepped his authority in imposing the levies, which are, in effect, a tax. America's top court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, usually takes months to reach big decisions, but many expect it to move faster in this case, which is also seen as the first major test of the Trump administration's push to expand presidential power. And finally, in the currency markets, it cost 161 Jamaican dollars and 70 cents to buy $1. It costs 211 Jamaican dollars and 80 cents to buy 1 Great British Pound, and it costs 115 Jamaican dollars and 81 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Mahiri Stewart. Good evening.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall.
Upper Total Tools.
Weed whacker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slive Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, St. Anne's Bay. Call us today.
This is a public service announcement from JPS. The service support hub for the JPS Customer Care Center, located in Western Jamaica, is now back to normal operations. This means that in addition to other support channels, including the My JPS app, self-service, and web chat, customers are now able to call through to the Customer Care Center as before. JPS thanks you for your patience and understanding. That was a public service announcement from JPS.
Taboo topics, bulletins after dark,
riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between.
Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings, each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Boyatings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss. Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored.
Boyatings After Dark.
Good evening, listeners and viewers. Welcome back. It is time for the nation's business. I am Siobhan Campbell. Not hearing you there, Sanjay, so please, I hope you get that sorted. But we move on in terms of still looking at the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, but we're looking at policy matters now, where Member of Parliament for West St. Thomas, that's James Robertson, says the passage of Hurricane Melissa has provided an opportunity to address the fundamental policy issues impacting government. Mr. Robertson says recovering from the hurricane will not be enough unless significant changes are made to government operations.
You can't just go forward because we have a crisis at this time and ignore the past. We will fail if we go forward as a nation in that manner. So I would like to really, for this committee, to put in front of us, and I have spoken to the clerk, and I will be sharing with him the documents we may need as members to look at and to understand and to read and refresh ourselves. The procurement guidelines, how policies are implemented in accordance with our laws is something we have to study and understand.
That's James Robertson, the Member of Parliament for West St. Thomas. He was addressing Wednesday's meeting of Parliament's Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee. The committee has been tasked with assessing the way forward from Hurricane Melissa. As a start, committee chairman Heroy Clark will invite the country's utility and telecommunications providers to assess the severity of the hurricane's impact on their systems.
Mr. Robertson says it's important that government policy properly align to aid in recovery, and he joins us now. Good evening, Sir Robertson.
Good evening, gentlemen.
It is good to hear from you, Sir Robertson. So I heard the point you made this afternoon at the Infrastructure and Physical Development Committee about the need not only to recover from Hurricane Melissa, but to build in some better policy, some better standards and policies that would better prevent something of a similar nature from happening in the future. Can you expound on that a bit?
Well, listen, let me not necessarily go exactly to that point first. The Physical and Development Committee, Infrastructure Committee, has a very clear mandate. It deals with examining policy documents and statements from ministries. So it's looking back at times to deal with the present and the future. I listened to the Prime Minister's extensive question and answer period yesterday. The truth is, Parliament actually spent that's the only thing that was on the agenda, which it always is. And I believe the Prime Minister did a tremendous job explaining to young MPs, first-term MPs, explaining to the nation how he was going to proceed. I listened carefully, made notes, and it just so happened that this committee is where the leader of the House, Floyd Green, had asked me to sit on this committee. And I said to myself, I sent for the standing orders, I looked at it, and this is something that we have to take serious. How, when we announce policy, the implementing agencies or even the private sector that builds out the infrastructure based on government policy, how they complement each other, how quickly it takes place, how the legislation affects it. You know, it's really a lot to look at. It's not going to be, for lack of a better word, it's not going to be at all times newsworthy or sexy. I didn't expect your station to pick up on this, but we have a lot to do. I mean, looking at the government procurement law and policy, looking at the Ministry of Finance, where this is all comes from, looking at specifics, and I give you two specifics. The Spark program. Announcements were made months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. How has the policy rollout been? How has the National Work Agency rolled these policies, the policy and positions and the funding out? Looking at, for example, the 55 bridges that were announced, where have we reached? How fast are we rolling out that? So those are policies the government puts forward. It's matched by funding through the budget. What's happening? I can only say this to you. The level of the magnitude of challenge we have in front of us, whether it's 1 trillion or 2.5 trillion, we're not going to get the money to hit and make a difference quickly if we do not look at how all of this dovetails and how we have our successes and failures of the past. So this committee is headed and chaired by Heroy Clark, who has a lot of experience now in Parliament, and I look forward to working with him.
And from your perspective, MP Robertson, what key vulnerabilities in government operations or infrastructure did this hurricane expose?
Let me say this to you, and let me look at it differently. I can only tell you that whatever drove the policy in 2008, 2009, through the Ministry of Finance to do the study of the East-West Highway, that policy has left the East with an infrastructural backbone that has stood up. We were able to go from Harbour View, from the airport to Harbour View, and back into Morant Bay, up to Cedar Valley, with almost no roadblocks. I mean, that infrastructure stood up. So the policy, the strength of that roadway. So I'm going to always, no matter where you go, I am not going to touch negative at this time. I will show you positives.
So you believe in terms of that model, as you said, in the Eastern Highway, it could be more widely utilized in other parts of the country?
It would have to be, and let me give you an example. All through that road network, infrastructure, is new cable, digital systems that will stand up and have stood up, and also new water lines. I never thought that that's where we were going this afternoon, but I'm glad you went there. Yeah, that's a successful decision that was made, whether you call it policy, whatever you want to say. A decision was made to build a world first-class road structure linking the East, and it's paying off. The education now, even though the Melissa did not land in the East, it landed possibly as far west as possible, which would have been Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth, into South St. James. I can only tell you what the level of water that took place, rainfall. We see where the policy to spend properly on infrastructure, it bore fruit. The North-South Highway is a decision that has stood up. Getting from Kingston to Mandeville. But the truth is, if those, for example now, we need to build those 55 bridges in record time. Wherever they fall, I do have some idea where they fall, what constituencies, what areas they're going to help and strengthen. The rollout of that's going back into infrastructure and policy.
Sorry to cut you off there, Mr. Robinson. Go ahead.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
No, I'm just curious, though, based on what you have put forward then, do you believe in terms of, because you hear a lot of these grand visions in terms of building resilience and moving forward, but is there a disconnect between the policymakers, that is the legislators, and the government, and the implementers of that policy, that being the technocrats and the various state agencies? Do you believe there's a disconnect there?
The answer is yes, without doubt. I mean, we take too long to spend the money allocated in our budget. Every year, significant funds are returned, not spent, not utilized by many government agencies. The Ministry of Finance claws back a lot of money. Let me say this to you. This committee, we had our own closed door session this morning. I sat with the chairman, Leroy Clark. Mr. Smith was present, Dwayne Smith. We also had the ex-mayor, Mr. Williams, was present. The four of us spoke. We had proper apologies from the opposition bench who just genuinely said it was short notice. It was short notice for all of us, but some were going into Westmoreland. Somebody had another serious appointment, medical appointment, I believe. They just, Mr. Zan does have damage in the hills of Clarendon. They couldn't make it. But I believe we're going to be very constructive. I believe there will be no grandstanding. I believe the members on that committee are going to work together to look. I'll bring one more, if we have the time, one more point to you.
Go ahead.
When you look at what brings the standing orders, it also says members of parliament and representatives of government agencies to facilitate exchange of views on the operations of the government and their effect on communities and groups in the society. That's point C of 73C, the standing orders. So I do believe the chairman and the committee members would like to sit and get a chance to look at these things. We're not going to be meeting on a weekly basis. We may be meeting twice a week. We may be meeting. We're going to push the agenda because we believe that there's something there. There are a lot of young members, especially on the opposition bench, who may have some very good ideas that we want to hear. They may want to question through us or directly. They can be invited to ask questions of anybody. Maybe this is the committee that should be allowed to facilitate their questions. The questions that they were putting forward yesterday for 1, 2, 3 hours. I'm not going to throw cold water on anybody's thought process or questions because there's a lot to do and we have to work together.
What policy adjustments or legislative actions would you recommend to ensure that rebuilding is not only faster but also more sustainable in the long term?
At this time, I would not even put my mind. I think that question needs to be answered through the work of this committee, not by the views of an individual. I wouldn't want to express any views on something like that at this time. I definitely wouldn't. And when I was invited here, I indicated that we want to make sure that there is nobody getting in the way the true work of the committee. The committee has to be the opposition members and the government members. And if we start going there, you may find that even individuals who we invite to sit with us, I may prejudice or their thought process, or they may be skeptical and not want to come forward and be forthcoming. So we have to be very careful and protective.
I appreciate that, Sir Robertson, but certainly because you put forward the idea in terms of looking at those policies, you must have some understanding of your own on your own initiative and recognizance as to what you feel must be adjusted.
I definitely do, but I would not share them at this time.
Okay.
Let's talk about your constituents.
If that seems a little weak on my part, I ask forgiveness.
you made a bold move, MP. So that's why we wanted to pick your brain on it.
I'm going. I know what my thought process is, but it is genuine. I mean, and we're going to work together.
All right, let's talk about your constituency. What is the current state of?
Maybe we'll have to sit with people such as yourselves and listen to you carefully, because you
talk
do
to me then.
views.
Talk to me about your constituency. What is the current state of recovery in Western St. Thomas, and what are the residents' most pressing needs right now?
Let me say this to you. Everybody in the East, our hearts goes out to those suffering. Our conditions in the East are very, very different, and that came out yesterday listening to others in Parliament. For example, we definitely don't have thousands of individuals with their roofs off. We have hundreds. So there's no comparison. But an individual with their roof off, with it raining, because it's raining in the East all day today, an individual in the East who is now wet again, whose blanket is wet, whose mattress is already destroyed and wet, is suffering. So suffering is an individual state. In this case. So we have hundreds that are suffering with similar conditions. I am not a weatherman, but I can only tell you, once you start going above 2,500 feet, 3,000 feet, 3,005, which would be the hills of Trinityville, Cedar Valley, two large divisions in West St. Thomas, we had wind and taking off roofs and doing crazy damage, light poles down. So we do have that also up in the hills, the higher elevations. So we do have that. Where we have the greatest challenge now is, for example, we have 7 bridges which are under budget, meaning the government of Jamaica budget is in place, and we should start building those 7 bridges. If those bridges had been built last year, the year before, thank God Nigel Clark put that program together before he left, and that's another one of his legacy programs, the 55 Bridge program, which is being driven now by the Office of the Prime Minister and Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Those bridges would have made such a difference to the livelihood and those communities, because I do have communities that are still marooned as we speak. Individuals in Minto, Epping Farm, Penline, having to travel 1 hour just to their town square, which would be Hagley's Gap, then to cross 4 fordings, which they will have to cross in a vehicle because the water will still wash them away. Then to come around through Bethel Town on where no roads exist, to Richmond Gap, to Ramble, or to Cedar Valley, where there is an excellent road. You're still talking about individuals in West St. Thomas traveling 3-4 hours to get medicine and supplies. To me, if that's what you're speaking about, you're marooned in a country that's 94 square miles our size. So that challenge exists. The last thing I would like to say in terms of the challenges now to the residents of West St. Thomas. We have individuals in about 6 districts, 6 areas, starting with in Trinityville and Danvers Pen, coming down to Seaforth, to York, all the way into Morant Bay, where we have the rivers that have taken homes away. We have lost homes, huge structures. An 8-bedroom structure is gone in 1 yard, and 3-4 other homes have disappeared. So we require a level of river training to protect the lives of people. And these are not people who are living on a riverbank. You had roads and miles and yards of road structure, which would have been now to the west, in this case of Seaforth and York, which has just disappeared over the 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, due to climate change, due to the rivers being silted, due to rock formation right up into the Blue Mountain Hills coming down and silting up the pathways. We have challenges now that's going to take billions of dollars to fix, to protect these towns. And so our challenges are different. And yes, Bath also has a similar feature, which is in East St. Thomas. And I did visit that one with the mayor and had a look.
I understand, James Robertson. I appreciate the tactics which you approach this matter. We don't want to make an Olympic sport out of human tragedy. Tragedy is a tragedy, and human needs are human needs. So what, in terms of the plans in place to get the assistance out, particularly to those who are marooned?
Well, in this area of C4, you have a very good, strong young councillor, Cheryl Stevens, and she takes the pressure off me. She's looking after those individuals on a daily basis in terms of shelter, etc. I've already given her quietly my position, my personal position, in terms of housing for those individuals who have been displaced in Seaford. So we are attending to the people on an individual basis. We're staying close to them. Whatever government resources, once we hear that it is allocated within the guidelines and the rules, we go to work. Let me just give you this example. We went as far as Maypen immediately before the hurricane on that highway structure to make sure we carried the resources that we could find into West St. Thomas to be able to address the needs of the people individually. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security has done a good job in this case in the East with getting into the shelters. We didn't experience a Category 5 as they did in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland and South St. James, through St. James. So we have had a different experience. We were able, I believe, to treat with the needs of the people in a timely manner. I personally watched packages go in to the shelters while the people were going in there, and the shelter managers did a tremendous job. One of the suggestions that came forward yesterday was, should shelter managers be paid? Volunteerism, I believe in it, but as Member of Parliament, I do collect a salary. It may be shared or not shared back with the people. But yes, there were good suggestions coming forward, and I just use that as one example. Should our shelter managers be given some stipend, a token? The Prime Minister said he would listen to that one. There's a number of suggestions came forward that the Prime Minister took on board and made serious notes on and addressed yesterday.
James Robertson, I want to thank you for your time so much. James is the MP for Western St. Thomas. Thank you as always. I'll be watching this one as the committee continues discussion.
We invite you to attend.
We sure will.
I'm sure I'll attend as media, but I don't know about giving...
Definitely.
We're going to invite you to come and listen to what you have to say. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Listeners, we're up on the break. We take the break and come back.
The Pink Run, a corporate wellness challenge, encourages physical activity, healthy eating, and age-appropriate health checks. Remember, early detection saves lives. The time by the Ministry of Health and Wellness is...
It's 7:02.
Ever wondered how to spot a scam before it drains your account? Or how Jamaica's top financial crime fighters track down the money? Join the Financial Investigations Division on Nationwide this morning, every first and third Friday at 8:20 a.m. for FID in Action, an informative, engaging feature designed to keep you and your money safe. Learn practical tips to help you spot, prevent, and report financial crimes. Understand how the FID protects the financial system. That's FID in action, protecting you, preventing financial crime. On Nationwide this morning, every first and third Friday at 8:20 a.m. Brought to you by the Financial Investigations Division.
Get ready, students! Get ready, parents! And get ready, schools! From January to March 2026, Nationwide 90 FM is hitting the road again with the NNN School Tour, a fun, organized, and interactive journey bringing excitement, energy, and empowerment straight to your school under the theme Rise Up, Represent, Do It For Your Future.
You no getting nothing less than 98 when school open, me never avoid the gate.
This tour is all about motivating Jamaica's youth to dream big, take action, and own their future. Expect entertainment, inspiring messages, and engaging activities that challenge you to showcase your talents and potential. If you're a student with talent, come show us when the NNN School Tour comes to your school. Stay tuned to Nationwide 90 FM for details on how to participate in the NNN School Tour. So get ready to rise up, represent, and do it for your future.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. We are staying on the topic of Hurricane Melissa, but we're looking at it from a different angle now, and that is volunteer mobilization. Hurricane Melissa made landfall on Tuesday, October 28, bringing with it a humanitarian crisis in the country. 32 people have reportedly died from the system's impact. It cut a path of destruction across several parishes, including Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Hanover, St. James, and St. Anne. The winds reaching up to 185 miles per hour took roofs, downed power lines and trees, and dumped torrents of rain on the island.
The government has established several committees to manage the response to Hurricane Melissa. Among them is a Relief and Recovery Oversight Committee led by Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr., and he says relief operations are being coordinated in all 14 parishes. The Labour Minister says more than 30,000 food packages have been delivered to households across parishes impacted by Hurricane Melissa.
Let's see. He says relief operations are being coordinated in all 14 parishes. The Labour Minister says more than 30,000 food packages have been delivered to households across parishes impacted by the hurricane. The minister says the government is working to get even more aid to people in affected communities. In the wake of the hurricane, thousands of Jamaicans are stepping up to assist those who have been displaced, cut off, and are suffering from the impact. Relief operations are stretching the capacities of state agencies and non-governmental organizations alike.
Well, in response, the Council of Voluntary Social Services, that's CVSS, has been tasked with coordinating a national volunteer mobilization program designed to register, train, and deploy thousands of willing Jamaicans to assist in relief, distribution, shelter operations, and cleanup efforts across the island. However, there are two urgent challenges. One, while the public's willingness to help is high, there's a widespread confusion about how and where to sign up safely and officially. And two, spontaneous, uncoordinated voluntary efforts, although well-intentioned, are leading to duplication, gaps, and in some cases, unsafe deployment in hazardous zones. So joining us now to discuss, we have the Executive Director of the Council of Voluntary Social Services, CVSS, Nancy Pinchas, and also Crisis Communications Coordinator at CVSS, Major Basil Jarrett. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having us.
Good evening to you both.
Let me start with you, Ms. Pinchas. Let us begin with an overview. What exactly is the National Volunteer Mobilization Program? And talk to me about its main objectives.
This program is central and core to what the Council of Voluntary Social Services has been mandated to do. We were founded in 1940 out of the social welfare movement. So we really are tasked with ensuring that voluntary organizations across Jamaica are equipped, they're trained, and they can serve their constituents, whether it's in education, health, welfare, or disabilities. So we really are an umbrella organization, but core to what we do is to match volunteers with agencies. So this is something that we have always done. We are closely associated with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, and they have called on us frequently in the past. The CDSS sits on the humanitarian committee, which is coordinated under ODPEM with a number of other agencies, as well as we have been in the last 2 years looking at the QR for the National Disaster Recovery Volunteer Program. So we've been core and central, but we've never experienced this type of a rapid response. COVID was a very important initiative coordinated by CDSS. We had that COVID response. We had thousands of volunteers coordinated to the JCF, JDF, and the private sector. This type of a response is a little bit different. While the hurricane was anticipated and the government was as prepared as it could be, we are in a situation where there's a lot of moving parts. The actual country is not equipped. We have a lot of aid coming in, and the volunteers are forming a very intrinsic part of moving aid, assisting people, and then releasing the trained services, the GOJ, the JDF, the JCF, to be able to do what they are equipped and trained to do, so that we can efficiently manage our limited resources.
And how soon do you expect the program to be fully operational in the parishes?
The problem is we are fully operational across most of the areas. What we are finding in the first week of response is we have 7,000 volunteers. We're not short of volunteers. The response of every single Jamaican, whether I have engineers, I have doctors, I have nurses, I have people who say, I have nothing, but I just want to help, just want to do something, is to mobilize them in an effective, efficient way. But it has taken a few days for our relief agencies to gear up, coordinate, and say, okay, we're ready. But we have been sending volunteers, 20, 30, 40 at a time. When you say in the parishes, when the need and the call is made, let's say in Black River, what we have found, so it's a learning curve, is that those individuals who are in St. Elizabeth, we can't communicate with them. So we have 60-odd people in St. Elizabeth wanting to volunteer, but the communication is so limited, we can't mobilize them on the kind of way we can mobilize people from Kingston and St. Andrew. So it's just a little different. The coordination, we're learning as we go along, but we have system in place. We have a database. We have 6,400 volunteers. We have a cadre of local agencies, GOJ, JDF, World Food Program, World Central Kitchens, Food for the Poor, and a number of other corporate foundations who are using our volunteers.
And I suppose that's where I can naturally bring you in, Major Jarrett. How are you managing in the circumstances where communication is spotty at best in many of the hardest hit areas?
It's a major challenge.
Well, what's happening is we have to just...
When you have a crisis like this, one of the most important things is to be able to maintain communication, not just with your aid workers and your relief workers, but also in this situation, the volunteers that you have organized. It has gotten a little bit better. I think the Starlink service has made a significant impact in helping to improve the communications, but it is still patchy. It is still a challenge. I think once you come off Spurtree Hill and you go down into St. Elizabeth, it's like you go down into a black hole. So that's one of the main challenges that we're having right now.
Mm-hmm. And there has been an overwhelming response from Jamaicans eager to help, Major Jarrett.
Yes.
How are you managing this surge of goodwill and ensuring volunteers are properly registered and organized?
It's also a challenge, because what you don't want is a situation where there's such an outpour of support and goodwill, but if you flood the areas with all of that support, it could almost be counterproductive. And I think we're already seeing signs of that. Traffic going into Trelawney, Montego Bay, Hanover, Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, it's crazy. There are people trying to get out. There are people trying to get in. There are volunteers trying to get in to make a difference. It's very, very difficult when it's done in an uncoordinated manner, and that's why CVSS is so important. What CVSS does, it acts it acts like a clearinghouse where there's a massive database up to 7,000 persons so far. During the registration process, people are disaggregated to their skills, availability, where they're located, that sort of thing. And so want CVS to be the first stop for these volunteers, because then we can into the communities in an organized and coherent manner that doesn't contribute to the chaos that's already there.
And Ms. Pinchers, for those, I think the problem is a lot of Jamaicans don't want to rest on their laurels when there's a situation as such a crisis has created. What do people do in terms of reaching out to you if they want to provide that assistance in an orderly fashion?
So we recommend that you use the sign-up form because it allows us to, disaggregate, as the Major alluded to, and coordinate our volunteers. So we have our website, cvssja.org/sign-up, and they can simply use the form there and sign up. And we'll be preparing one for our recipients of volunteers, so when they need a volunteer, they can fill out the form and we'll send them. But we really are trying to work with legitimate partners that we can place safely and responsibly our volunteers.
Mm-hmm. And before volunteers are deployed, what kind of training or orientation will they receive to prepare them for conditions in the field?
So at this particular juncture, when I consider that we're in this mode of immediate response of shelter and food, there's very little training going on. That's just the reality on the ground. We're hoping in the second phase of response and recovery that we'll be able to be a little bit more collaboration, maybe some training, and put groups together and undertake very distinctly outlined projects. So that would involve a little training. But right now, we're in just an immediate response. You call and often they need volunteers in 8 hours. So the opportunity does not present, unfortunately. But we're hoping that there are lessons learned from this, and this is something we can put in place in anticipation of another catastrophic event.
And Major Jarrett, we have help coming in from all over in terms of the international community, as well as locals also trying to provide their assistance. How does the CVSS now coordinate all of that talent in terms of putting that in the field?
Well, once we get persons in the database, it is fairly easy for us to figure out, for example, who is close to Black River. Let's say Black River, we identify Black River as ground zero. Who is close, because the registration process requires that you designate your location or somewhere that you can get to quickly and efficiently. We look at the skill sets you bring to the table. We also have a priority list. Right now, the immediate need is for medical care. In fact, just yesterday, following an interview that we did on one of your competing stations, we received a volunteer call this morning of about 30 doctors and nurses from the U.S. who they're ready to come, they're ready to get in. We were able to bypass the normal registration process and press them into battle with the Ministry of Health and the JDF Health Services Corps. So we do have a system in place, but there are certain priority areas right now that we're focusing on. And yes, we do want skilled persons, but there's also no shortage of use for able-bodied men and women who can unpack boxes and move material through a logistics line. I want to add to that what CVS is doing is not unique in disasters. FEMA, for example. FEMA doesn't go anywhere without its volunteer organizations active in disaster. I believe that group, they call it the VOAD. This is a group of volunteers that are on standby all year round. They're trained and they're prepared to deploy. Similarly, There's in New Zealand, the Student Volunteer Army, which is a pre-trained youth corps. They were integral in the 2011 earthquake response. That's where we need to be, where when these...
Major Jarrett, are you there? Oh, dear. It seems that we lost Major Jarrett. Are you there, Ms. Pinchas?
Yes, I'm still here.
So just a final word to you, Ms. Pinchas. Is there anything you would like to say or any appeal you'd like to make to the public in terms of assisting the CVS at this time?
Sign up, reach out. We're trying as best as we possibly can with our limited resources to answer all calls, respond to all emails, because we get a lot of individual interest. And people have very special requests and special skills, and we really try to see if we can place them with agencies. And also, if you have not been called or you haven't been sent an email, you will. Don't lose faith. Stand by. This event is an ongoing, long-term event. The phases will change. The needs will change. But stand by. We are definitely going to need assistance in those hard-hit parishes.
Very well put. That is Executive Director of the Council of Voluntary Social Services, Nancy Pinchas. We also had with us the Crisis Communications Coordinator from the CVSS. That was Major Basil Jarrett. Thank you both for joining us, and all the best in terms of providing that critical support.
Thank you so much.
We take a short break, listeners, and come back with some news from overseas in the United States.
Jamaica's poverty rate has dropped from 16.7% to 8.2%. As the government's economic program begins to pay off, our country is heading towards sustained growth. We are building Jamaica. The time by the office of the Prime Minister is...
It's 7:20.
Tune in to Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Stay ahead of the curve with our cutting-edge reporting and accurate breaking news coverage.
We are having an earthquake. Oh, God.
Hear it here first on Nationwide 90 FM. Tune in, turn up the volume, and listen. We bring a mix of news, entertainment, and sports to your lives.
Nationwide 90 FM's live and continuous coverage of the World Championships in Budapest, Hungary.
News and discussions week mornings.
Coming up in the news at 6 for this morning.
Entertainment in the afternoons, then news again in the evenings.
Nationwide news at this hour, fired.
Also, tune into the entertainment and sports shows in the nights and on the weekends.
It is Boy Things After Dark right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
Everything is news, from current affairs and entertainment to sports, business, and other categories.
Nationwide 90 FM. This is Beanie Man. Give it to them. Zaga, Zen.
From every whisper to every commotion.
That's rubbish. The KSAMC cannot investigate itself.
Every news story unfolds here first at Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Every sound is a story, and every story we share is news.
Welcome back, listeners. As said, we now go overseas. While we recognize things are quite unfortunate here at home, we're still struggling with the Hurricane Melissa. We still have international items that do need covering, and Democrats swept a trio of races on Tuesday in the first major election since Donald Trump regained the presidency. In New York City, 34-year-old Zohran Mamdani won the mayoral race, capping a meteoric and unlikely rise from anonymous state lawmaker to one of the country's most visible Democratic figures. Mamdani becomes the city's youngest mayor since 1892. It's the first Muslim mayor and the first to have been born in Africa.
And over there in Virginia and New Jersey, we saw moderate Democrats won their elections for governor with commanding leads. The win elevates a new generation of leaders and gave the beleaguered party a shot of momentum ahead of next year's congressional elections. Well, to help us to talk about what happened yesterday. We're now being joined by a member of the diaspora, Lawman Lynch. Good evening, Lawman.
Good evening, Chevron. Good evening, Sanjay. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Doing quite well. Good to hear from you as well. So tell us, Lawman, is this a sign of things to come for the Democrats going into the midterms, or is this just a rare misfire on the Republicans' part?
I think it's a sign for what is to come. But let me first say that we continue to pray for those severely affected by Hurricane Melissa. And we here in the diaspora, certainly I am, we're working tirelessly to mobilize aid to fortify the relief efforts with partners on the ground in Jamaica. You know, when I ran for city council in June in the Democratic primaries, just to contextualize what I want to say, we knew it would have been an uphill task countering the establishment, right? So while I was campaigning, the focus was partly to ensure that last night, Tuesday, November 4, turned out the way it did in New York. We knew that Mayor Adams wouldn't make it to the primaries. We knew that Governor Cuomo's political baggage was dead weight among an emerging voter base, right? Zoran spoke a language that the emerging voting bloc gravitated towards. He was meeting with the right individuals and aligning himself with the right organizations, and eventually that support base snowballed. So I don't believe that it's a one-off. I think that this is a signal for what the midterms can possibly look like next year, and this has a lot of implications for New York in particular.
Yeah, and in your view, when we look on Zoran Mamdani, what factors most contributed to his connection with voters?
I think, what he ran on. Critically, we must understand that New York is heavily immigrant-centered, and he ran on affordability and the cost of living. He ran on housing and development, safety and governance, taxing the wealthy and redistribution of that wealth, and really he did a lot of work supported by individuals like myself with organizing and mobilizing. So his platform issues are issues that you would normally hear about in developing countries, like real-life issues. And that, to me, was what really captivated the masses and got individuals to go out to vote for him in droves.
Well, the president says that the result is because of the ongoing government shutdown, and he doesn't seem to believe that this has anything to do with any policy or anything on his part. How true do you believe that to be the case?
Absolutely nonsense. And, we can all have our opinions when it comes down to politics. But Mamdani, the win signals a moment of generational and demographic change in New York. It's a younger-led, initiative, immigrant connected with his message, more explicitly progressive in his policies and his choices. This conveys that the electorate is really demanding not only representation, but a different kind of governing ethos. It's not one-off, I'm telling you. For the diaspora community, and immigrants, it means one of us, someone whose background, you mentioned it earlier, he was born in Africa, someone whose background reflects migration and multiculturalism. He's stepping into the most powerful municipal office in this country. It's not just in New York. New York's mayor is really the most powerful municipal office in this country. That in itself, has symbolic weight. It is saying that New York's leadership is really evolving, right? And it is really reflecting what New York is all about. It also goes way beyond symbolism. It means that there's a concrete shift, counter to what the president is saying. There's a concrete shift in what is happening in democratic politics, and politics in general. We had a mayor that was talking about affordability in New York. Affordability. We have a mayor, an incoming mayor, who was talking about cost of living, housing, transportation. Sanjay, you've been here. You know how difficult it is in New York. These are issues that affect the immigrant households, working families, marginalized communities. And we have a lot of those. A lot of people don't understand that America, New York in particular, can be so difficult to live in. So when Zoran begins to speak these messages, it is going to resonate. And I'm telling you, I'm going to work as hard as I can to ensure that he's successful in his office, because we're definitely going to see a shift for the better in New York.
We're seeing, though, Lawman, both progressive and moderate Democrats winning significant races. For example, Mamdani on the left, Cheryl Moore centrist. What does this say about the current ideological balance within the Democratic Party?
The Democratic Party, really needs to wake up to the realities. As much as individuals may say they are, first of all, I'm not far left. I'm more center left than anything else. But Mamdani's rise underscores that there's a segment within the Democratic Party, especially in urban areas. You're talking about Jersey, you're talking about New York, that is hungry for a more activist kind of leadership, less progressive agenda. I won't go, like I said, and I want to place on record, I'm really and truly not far left. But there's an emerging voter bloc that I spoke about that is really more, liberal. It sends a signal to the party that you cannot ignore younger voters. You cannot ignore immigrants. You cannot ignore the working class household, right? And you cannot ignore the activists, those who are working on the ground within grassroots organizations. When you talk about NYCC, that's an organization. I'm a board member of NYCC. I've never seen Cuomo at one of our meetings, but we saw Zoran. The truth is, I have access to my mayor. I know I have access to my incoming mayor. On the flip side, as you mentioned, it may exacerbate this long-standing tension within the party between the moderate center-left, to the progressives. Right? I know that is going to be accentuated. Some Democrats may worry that a very progressive mayor, like Zoran, will become a target for Republicans, and the president has already started to target him, and independents, may target him as well, and that, may raise the stakes in the future nationwide politics. But for the diaspora, or from a global dimension, it may enhance the visibility of immigrant-led politics within the Democratic coalition, helping to mobilize, communities, but also forcing parties to address issues of representation, to address issues of equity, to address issues of power in a meaningful way. So in short, it can either serve as a template for renewal in democratic politics, right? Or it can be something that we need to be very cautionary about, if he struggles in his role as mayor. So definitely, as Democrats, we'll be watching, the next couple months very closely.
And turning to the midterms next year, outside of New York, which is primarily a Democratic stronghold, New Jersey, I believe the last time they elected a Democrat or voted for a Republican president was 1992, 1996, around there. And Virginia is a very purple state, which tends to either whoever is in power in the actual governor becomes the losing party from the presidential election. But when we go now to the midterms, are you sure the Democrats are creating that momentum where they could see themselves shifting things in the House?
They have an opportunity, and the operative word is opportunity. But I spoke about it earlier. It depends on how Democrats internally, how we handle the victory from last night. We can either shun Zoran or put all our efforts behind a more progressive agenda, an agenda that really speaks to the people, speaks directly to the people, an agenda that really bridges the divide within the party, because the party is splintered. There are those who are moderate, there are those who are, leaning more towards the right, and then there are those who are center-left and those who are very far left. And of course, as you may be aware, Zoran identifies as part of the Democratic Socialists, right? So, and that's why he was accused or labeled as it was a communist. They have all of these, adjectives to call him. So I think if we, as Democrats, listen more to the people and become a little bit more people-centered, right? I'm not saying that we should do away with the establishment. I believe that it is very important that we work together, young and new voting bloc, along with those who are, much older. There are many Democrats who vote for Cuomo. A lot of Democrats voted for Cuomo last night. A lot of Democrats, 6,000, less than 10,000, but still a lot, voted for the outgoing mayor. So the party is really divided, and what will really tip the scale in the favor of the Democrats for the midterms next year is a unified effort within the party over the next couple months. Whether you're DSA, whether you are traditional Democrats, whether you are New Kings Democrats or Brooklyn Democrats, we definitely have to come together to create that shift in the midterms next year.
Okay, that is Lawman Lynch. He is a member of the diaspora. As I understand, you ran for the Democratic Party for the New York City Council to represent District 41. That's correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lawman.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
So just to say, Sanjay, I mean, I understand why there is some level of adulation among the Democrats at this point. At the end of the day, New York is a blue state. I would have been shocked if Mamdani actually lost that race, even though Cuomo seemed to have had a decent shot. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a blue state. And over in New Jersey, also a very blue state, less blue than New York, but still blue. And Virginia, there was almost an expectation based on the polling that Spielberger, I can't remember his full name, Spearberger would have won that race as well. So I don't know if this is necessarily going to translate to the same kind of momentum going into next year's midterm elections.
You have to admit, though, Siobhan, that the win, and even though I will admit it's New York, Virginia, New Jersey, it did give the Democrats much needed momentum after Donald Trump's return to presidency, yeah? And the victories show that Democrat messaging on inclusion, governance, and stability still resonates strongly, particularly in urban and suburban centers, because bear in mind that Cuomo put a good fight, yeah? And the worry was that with Donald Trump endorsing Cuomo could have crossed the line. So it signals for me that despite the national fatigue and the divisions, there's still a strong appetite for competent, forward-looking leadership, albeit New York, Virginia, and New Jersey. But at least I am happy that the Democrats got that much-needed momentum.
Well, you know what they say about the Trump voter? They vote for Donald Trump. You rarely see them out in primaries, and you rarely see them out in these kinds of contests. Again, the president's popularity, as waning as it is, and his actual strength will be tested in the midterms come next year. That is where we will see whether his popularity is actually been impacted by what has happened recently.
Indeed, and your point is right. Democrats swept key races, but these are traditionally blue states. So the results shouldn't be mistaken for a national realignment. So you really have to caution the Democrats, yeah? And the party still faces challenges in swing states and rural areas where, as you indicated, Trump's base remains energized. So overconfidence really could lead to complacency on critical issues like inflation, border management, crime, areas where Republicans continue to score points with voters. So I guess the midterm will be the real litmus test.
Sharon Bless is shocked to know that Donald Trump endorsed Andrew Cuomo. Well, you know what they say about the enemy of my enemy? I think that's essentially what took place in that matter.
But he did say that he doesn't like Cuomo, but it's the better of the two evils. That's what he said in a sense. I'm paraphrasing what he said. Yeah?
But I think we have the Watchman now, listeners, and then we come back with your calls. The numbers are 630-7124. Please come chat with us.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton, weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media. Are you ready to turn your sales and marketing skills into high earnings? Nationwide 90 FM is searching for business development executives to help us grow our business and build lasting client relationships. If you have experience across all stages of the sales cycle and possess strong communication, negotiation, and time management skills with a proven sales track record, this opportunity is perfect for you. Join our team and work with the top corporate brands, media agencies, and of course, our on-air personalities. Enjoy networking opportunities, professional growth, and competitive commissions. Ready to take the next step? Send your resume to hr@nationwidenewsnetwork.com today.
Hi, I'm Lori Gale from Oasis, advising of a change in our program focus, November 5 to 18. We do a shift from reading the Word to living out the Word. Host Roland Gale will speak with heads of churches regarding their intervention in getting our lives back on track following Hurricane Melissa. Be sure to join Roland and his guests on Oasis beginning Wednesday, November 5, 12:55 p.m., with a repeat at 5:45 a.m., only on Nationwide, the new revolution in media. Let's all be praying for our nation.
So my correction there, listeners, there will be no Watchman this evening, so we will go straight to your calls. The numbers are 630-9371-4 and 618-6730. Come chat with us. Back to here in Jamaica now, as I understand it, the JPS is going to pursue this matter of moving some of the country's critical electricity infrastructure underground. I'm happy to hear it. I hope that it's not limited to, as they said, to just Montego Bay and that those outlying areas. I want to see if we could potentially move other areas to an underground, into an underground capacity, because it would be better for the country in the long run. But I think the real question is, I wonder, and I want to ask this at some point to Jamaicans, would they take an increase, a potential increase in their electricity bills if it means that the JPS could be potentially move that infrastructure underground island-wide? Would you support that if you got that to be done? I would support actually an increase in electricity bill, a reasonable increase in electricity bill, if that means making the infrastructure more resilient. That is my point on that. But I would love to hear from listeners as to what they say. But I understand Voice of New York, you're on?
Hi, good afternoon, guys.
Good evening. How are you doing?
How are you? First time talking to you guys. I'm a public of, Nationwide.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear you, sir. It's been a while that we have spoken on that other side.
Wow, amazing, yeah.
Yes.
But I like for you guys your coverage of the hurricane so far. So I'll give you guys kudos for that. Let me address one thing about underground electricity. If I don't like the pipeline dream, because we like to dream in this pipeline. It's dream.
Mm-hmm.
Your bill is probably gonna be doubled, if not more.
You think it would be that? You think it would be that much of an impact?
Absolutely. New York, we use the most natural gas in New York for electricity, and New York, our rate in New York, because most of the line in New York is underground, and of course, infrastructure in New York is a different animal than most places. Our per kilowatt is almost like Jamaica.
And here I thought Jamaica was one of the worst.
Yeah, it's almost same thing. Yeah, because of infrastructure and of course other things too. Other things, but infrastructure is problem number one. Yeah. So if you were to move all those line on the ground, you're probably talking about. In Jamaica, we probably can't pay for it. So there's all, we like the pipeline dream, and yes, if we can, why not? But we can't pay for it. I don't think we could have paid for it. We can pay for it.
Well, as I understand it, based on what the Prime Minister says, he's not looking to move the entire system underground, just critical areas, which I can understand.
Let me put another way, boys on New York. But here is this. Here, look at it this way. When we add up the costs that the JPS would have to spend, let's say, the last 3 hurricanes to restore areas of the country, when you look at the long-term gain, wouldn't it work out cheaper for them to do it that way?
So, great question. I just said it. So if we're going to move the urban area underground, our new built area, let's put it that way. I love engineering. We can move the new built up. Say we're going to build Black River back, and we move Black River underground. It would be a great thing to do. I don't know the cost that when you when you do the cost analysis, we don't know yet. But of course, it'll cost somewhat some money.
Mm-hmm.
So if these are the years they're talking about, no problem. I'll go for it, and hopefully we can pay for it, and hopefully we can get some funding from other from outside to help with this initiative. No problem. I have no problem with that. But say take Montego Bay, where I'm from. Most of Montego Bay will not be able to move on the ground. Just put it that way. That's how it is. Okay? And probably a lot of Kingston area. Because those are built up here already. You're going to have to dig up, the road, go through, and then dig it up and put it on the ground.
Yeah, I can see that being the issue there. But I think in a situation where, again, I don't want to use a tragedy or a catastrophe as a means of doing something. But in the circumstances when we're talking that power lines are down in many places in Montego Bay, St. Elizabeth, you can use that opportunity now to move some of that infrastructure underground under the circumstances.
Right, if we're going to do a brand new build-up. But take for example, guys, I want to, because sorry, I didn't get your name, I just tuned in. Take where Hall Original Hospital is an A1 hospital. I'm getting from a good on-ground source. There's no water there for days now. No water.
No, I don't know if there might not be potentially running water at the facility, but I'm certain they have other things in place in terms of getting water to the hospitals, as I understand from the Minister of Health, and they do have generators for power and other supplies. Yes.
Yeah, they have electricity there, but there's no running water. And the reason why they didn't have a backup system, adequate backup system, that's the main reason. So these are the resilient. The things that we have to put in. Right, resilient. Sorry, yeah. These are the things that we have to put in place first before we even talk about underground electricity, underground wires of electricity. We have to make sure our hospitals, our police stations, fire stations. We have to make sure that because we're in a hurricane belt. We're going to get hurricanes, and they're going to be stronger, of course, because of, what do you call it, global warming. The ocean are warmer, and I think they're going to come stronger in the coming years. So we have to prepare for this. But I know you're probably going to take a break. I want to touch a little bit on an election here in New York before I go. Do you mind?
Go ahead. Just make it quick. I want to take all the call.
You have to be quickly, yeah.
I'm a Democrat, but I'm telling you one right now. Oh my God. The elected mayor. I'm sorry. I can't go for this guy.
Why?
It sounds good, but all the stuff that he proposed, who's going to pay for these things? And you know what I'm going to say before I go quickly? You got to support working class people. They are your backbone of the economy. Okay, we can talk about affordable this and affordable that, affordable whatever. I love to get affordable everything. But if you're not working and you're not paying taxes, in other words, you're negative. You're negative number to the economy, to society.
I hear
and
you.
That's everywhere.
I hear you.
This is every country in the world, nowhere in the world. Working class people paying taxes, they are your backbone of the economy. And Democrats, they don't. You never hear them talk about how we're going to help the working class people. Never. And this is, by the way, quickly before I go, and this is why Trump in the White House. Unfortunately, because I'm not a Trump backer. Take care, guys. Nice talking to you.
Thank you for the call, Voice
all
of
the
New
best.
York. I can understand that sentiment, that it is a situation where I think the Democratic Party, up to a point in recent times, and even the Labour Party in the United States, they've forgotten what essentially they're used to represent, and that was the working class people. They've moved more towards ideological concerns rather than that bread and butter base of working class people. So I understand what point Voice of New York is trying to make there. But Omalo, you're on the line. Good evening. Omalo?
Hello?
Oh, there you are, Omalo. How are you?
Yeah, good evening, Siobhan. Good evening, Sanjay.
Good evening, Omalo.
Yeah, without any feasibility study, someone just jump and say we can't put the things on the ground?
Well, as I said, I understand, and the Prime Minister explained to me the considerable cost associated with moving some of this infrastructure underground. So it's not a matter of no feasibility study, but the Prime Minister has suggested that they look into it and see as much as possible what is possible.
I'm not talking about the Prime Minister. I'm talking about the caller before.
No, I understand you're talking about the caller before you, but he's not just talking out of his rear, as one would say. He's made a sensible point in terms of the cost, and he's saying based on his experience in New York, where their power is underground, it comes with a cost, and it does come with a cost. I don't know what that cost is, but it does come with a cost.
Can I explain something? Because I heard digging up a road. We don't have to dig up no road. We can build the 3 telecommunication companies in Jamaica to create tunnels on the sidewalk where people could enter, their workers could enter, going down into the sidewalk where people walking over it and things are put beneath, a tunnel is put beneath it, where all these wires and stuff could run. The 3 telecommunication company could come together and do stuff like this. But we don't have to pay any extra money. Where the government could do is give tax incentives for them to do this over a period of time.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you, Amal. If it is entirely feasible, I would love for it to be done. But JPS has been wringing their hands against such a move for a long time. Remember the whole matter up at Hope Pastures. They are very much against it. But I do know up to a point.
A lot of people don't like changes. A lot of people don't like changes. And changes cost money. And if they can make money from the whole system without any changes, they will just keep doing it. But this grid system that we have, it cannot move Jamaica in the future. It cannot be 50 years from now, this is what we're using.
As I said, I don't want to make light of a tragedy, but it does represent an opportunity to look into new ways of doing things. in terms of how we build houses, in terms of how we place our infrastructure, even the health minister said in terms of where we put even the hospitals. This represents an opportunity to make some major shifts in how we go about our business here in Jamaica.
And I'm saying, Sevon, there should be a standard where we say our hospital are built at certain level. Maybe you say the highest level of building an hospital, a fire station and a police is at level 5 based on certain criteria to withstand certain forces. Yeah? So we have to set levels as to, we have to go around now, you know. We cannot wait until the next hurricane to take off all these things, our hospital taps roof and our police roof.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you, Omala. Now is the time that we have to press that reset button, and we now have to look at, when in the rebuilding process, what are the things that we're going to have to do differently?
Yeah, and we must put the 3 telecommunication companies together, and we will find a way how to, with some tax incentives and things like this, for them to develop what is it that they're offering Jamaicans. This cannot be the future, what they're offering.
All right, thank you, Omalo.
All right, thank you.
Carl, you're on the line. Good evening.
Good evening, Siobhan. Good evening.
Long time I don't hear from you, Carl, I think.
Good evening, Carl.
Feel like it's a while I don't hear from you, Carl. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Remember, say we just have hurricane. We have to go through the constituency where we did on it. We must have to check up on things.
And how things are your way?
We're all right, man. Things are all right.
All right.
I have 2 questions I want to ask you. Here, all the time people used to say, fish not have no brain.
Never heard that one before. I'm going to hold my tongue and see where you're going with this, Carl.
All right. You throw the line in a pan or the CR, and you go for a catch fish for Sunday morning. And the same fish are there around, you catch him in front of the beside him and you throw back out the hook in a pan. Him same one come and you catch him again and you move on with him. And I take it there to start my conversation. I don't know if you listen, the president of the Teachers Association, Mr. Mallar, Mr. Melly.
I wrote that story, so yes, I listened to Mr. Malaba.
Right. Let me ask you something. The teachers, the police, and the soldiers, and the nurse, and the doctors, them way, that's St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, come right round. Them not stressed too.
I would imagine, I can't imagine anybody out in the western part of Jamaica who wouldn't be stressed at this point.
Okay. In Kingston and St. Andrew, Clarendon and St. Catherine here, so majority of the school level are still okay. So why you not to open back up the school?
I was struggling to understand Mr. Malaba's point as well. It seemed to just lack any real...
I will go further and say, wait. If I could just comment on that one, Carl, I will go as far as to say it was a foolish comment. Yeah, and I make no apology for saying that.
Well,
because no. And let me tell you why. Everywhere would have to be on a needs assessment. And we understand with schooling, you want to ensure that these kids, they're not losing out on valuable time. Exactly. If you have an area like Kingston that is not badly affected and the school would have done their assessment and recognized that everything is okay, what is the difficulty in them restarting school?
Thank you very much. And the next question I will ask him also, if in a Carol, this was about 3 months before we did get online. The teachers, them was at home, them still get them salary. If this time around when he wants to open, if he's going to tell the teachers, them say, don't collect no salary.
Well, we know that's definitely not one thing that he would say.
I hear you, Carl. And that's another thing, remember the teachers, they're not paid on the basis of whether they go to school or not, so it would be best to get them back in the classrooms doing their job.
And I understand you, Siobhan. Anyhow, because maybe somebody else, I just want to ask you another question. I heard the leader of the opposition come with another stupidness Tuesday. And sometimes I have to wonder when somebody is going to take over the PMP in leadership. That's if we hear anything, we have to think about it careful before we can choke cold water on it. Now let me ask you something. In a Seabright constituency, what happened here that you'll give him $50 million?
Carl, I don't know how to answer that one either. I really don't know how to answer that one, Carl. I think the opposition leader was simply just throwing out a number, a shot in the dark, so to speak. But there's no reasonable way one could actually expect that every constituency at this point in time would get the same amount, regardless of what that sum would be. It just would not be proper. I can't imagine, so for example, Dwayne Smith would get the same amount as Floyd Green out in St. Elizabeth. That would just not be reasonable.
We can't have this thing I talk about, the leader of the opposition cannot. The leader of the opposition, no, can't be just, it is a part of government. And you can't accept when the leader of the opposition says something. It is foolishness. We cannot stick for that.
I hear you, Carl, but I'm getting wrap-up signal. We should have been out here from 6:57, but thank you for the call, Carl. No, Carl, sorry. Call Ricardo tomorrow, and you can bring it up with him, sorry. So thanks to our super producer, Dana Davey, our technical operator, I believe it's Damien this evening, and thanks to all of you in YouTube as well as those listening on the radio. It is a pleasure to serve you. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis, wishing for you a wonderful evening.